please welcome my guest for this evening, Onsta.
Hello.
Hello. Oh no,
Hello.
I messed up something. One sec.
Ah.
Where did that? Why
Oh,
did that get?
I'm down here. Hello.
There we go. That's better. I don't know how that happened. I had
Hey.
that. We had this
We
working like
sure
30
did.
seconds
We
ago.
sure did. We were like set. We
Like
were
I,
like all set.
I wonder if I just QA'd something for Video Ninja. Actually, I might even check that later.
Mm.
But anyways,
Mm.
hi Onsta. Welcome on in. So happy to have you
Hi.
here.
Hi. I'm happy to be here.
So I'm guessing folks who are tuning in right now are probably already familiar with you, but for anyone who might not be, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Onsta. I'm a black VTuber and freelance illustrator that's currently living in Japan. Love it here. It's fantastic. I love Sega. I love specifically Yakuza. Love Yakuza so much.
There's a reason
a little,
for the
a little
pre-recorded
so much.
intro, I said, here to make you an offer you can't refuse, because I was like, all right, what can I do that's, I don't know any good Yakuza lines, but that's the closest thing that we get with the American analogy.
Yeah, just like this is the closest thing that we get. We get a little bit of like a mafia. We get a little bit of fun mafia. Don't worry about it. But yeah, no, I have like listen, I not to get too stinky with it, but I do have someone here that can like, make you an offer that you can't refuse.
Oh, yes. Hello, sir. Yes, I promise I was
Mm,
being very professional. Talk Show was not saying anything bad about you or your organization. Hi.
mhm,
Yes. So please welcome to the show.
mhm.
Also, I'm really bad because I haven't actually played any of the Yakuza games. I forget. Is
Also,
this Kiryu?
yeah, this is Kiryu. He's
Okay,
really
cool.
nice.
I'm actually really proud that I was able to remember which one it was. Please welcome to the show, Kiryu.
Yeah, yeah. He loves it here. He loves it here. He's very honored to be here.
Oh,
Kiryu,
I feel so much better now that his arm's down.
Yeah, no, listen, he's a big softie. Don't let his looks fool you. He's perfectly fine. Carrie, we have company. Carrie, just play it cool. Just play it cool, okay? Just play it so cool, okay? Oh man, no, I'm happy to be here. I'll send Kiryu away because I think he might attract some riffraff as he tends to do. It's not his fault,
Mm.
but
Yeah, no, it comes with the territory. I understand.
Mhm.
You know what? I guess he can be the studio security for the night.
Oh, you can do security, Kiryu. You hear that? You got a job, Kiryu. You got a job. Oh, he loved that. He loved that.
I honestly forgot you had that. That was.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, he's always one room away.
Mhm. But yes, you were
One room
mentioning
away.
big Sega fan, big Yakuza fan, and that one
Yeah.
of your dreams is to work at Sega. And hey, they're aware
Mhm.
VTubers exist. There's the Sonic VTuber. They've done
That's
collabs
true.
with Korone from Whole Life. So it's the type of thing that
Yeah.
if and when you apply to them, that you can put VTuber stuff on there and at least be
Mhm.
reassured and know that they're gonna understand what it is, because not every company does.
Yeah. God, like some companies are just like, what is this? What is so you're an anime character. Okay. All right. That's fine. But like that's true. Sega has done work with several VTubers. Um and also I even got to work with them a little bit for a charity stream recently. And it was a whole lot of fun.
Oh, I knew that you'd work with them. I didn't realize it was for a charity stream.
Yeah, it was great. It was for I believe it was for Game Blast 23. And it was a whole bunch of fun. We raised over £1,000 in charity. And it was a whole bunch of fun. I played Yakuza for a whole bunch of it, most of it, all of it. Um and it was amazing. They were super kind, amazing to work with. And I had like a fantastic time. It's just like,
That's
oh, this is a
awesome.
dream.
It,
Yeah.
obviously, privacy first. Any details that need to be withheld is totally fine. Is there a story
Mhm.
to how that came about?
Oh, well, they reached out and I was like, "Oh, I would love to."
Well, that's a pretty good sign already. The fact that they reached out to you, they're aware of your existence. So, on top of all that, that if when you apply, that you can say, hey, talk to so and so in this department. We work together. They
Mhm.
can vouch for me, eh?
Yeah, also like they've given me a couple of shout outs since then too on even on the big old Twitter. Um
Oh yeah.
and I'm just like, "Oh, my bones." Just so honored. Just so honored.
It's a
Ah.
really cool thing when you get to work with groups that have been, you know, even if the exact people at the helm today aren't the people at the helm when the company was doing things that were formative for you, being able to then do something with that group is really impactful. I've been fortunate enough to have some
Yeah.
similar experiences myself, and it's that type of thing where just, you know, you hope that then you get to be that person who is then going to have perhaps a little impact on somebody today so that
Hmm.
tomorrow they continue that cycle.
Yeah. Just really like literally like uplifting like people not only around you but like giving people like a leg up in their
Hmm.
own journeys because all it takes is one person to give you a chance for that
Oh,
to
yeah.
change absolutely everything.
I'm
And so, oh.
abundantly familiar with that concept, let's just say.
Yeah. Same. Same.
Just the, it, it is. We're going to get into this more and more as the night goes on, or the morning goes on for you, I suppose. But
Mhm.
we realized when we spoke earlier in the week that you and I have lived strangely parallel paths in some way. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of eerie of just we we've definitely never met in person, but
Mhm.
that we've been in a lot of the same places at the same time with similar circumstances and just been ships in the night. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of it comes down to doing stuff at conventions that you being an artist, we're often an artist alley, and that
Mhm.
me and my event work usually has me in the exhibit hall working with different companies. So it makes that sense of how we've missed each other. But we were
Mhm.
just talking a little bit earlier in the week, and even down to the year, and in some cases, the event that we were at, the
Yeah.
fact that we were in the same
This is
places, that we,
just wild.
that,
So wild.
that we had been talking and mentioned, having an earthquake experience at a
Mhm.
convention. And I was like, oh, yeah, Anime Expo 2019. We were like, same hat. And it's like, oh,
This is like, "Oh, no." It's like, "Hey, you feel the second one too?" And it was like, "Yeah, here's where I was." And you were like, "Here's where I was." And I was like, "Oh my god, the
yeah.
same. Literally the
And
same."
and we each had the similar experience of our first instinct was, oh, are we about to pass out?
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, I really must be tired, huh?" Because like,
Because
that's just the AX experience.
oh yeah, that's most convention experiences, that you're just
Yeah.
running on an adrenaline high and you're
Mhm.
pushing yourself, and that you know I like to think that I'm pretty smart about how I manage myself at a convention nowadays, and that I'm really good about staying hydrated, not overexerting. So, uh, this particular earthquake, if you've ever, at least from where I was standing, it felt like if you were on a boat, it was more swaying, that it
Yeah.
wasn't really rumbling.
Yeah.
Because I've been in small earthquakes before where it felt like a rumble, but never quite a
Mhm.
like a sea motion type of thing like
Yeah,
that.
like a
And that's what
gentle
really
sway.
caught me off guard and made me think, oh
Yeah.
gosh, like am I getting woozy? Would I've been staying hydrated, and I've been actually
Mhm.
taking care of myself. I'm not feeling that tired at all. And then I looked up
Mhm.
and saw the hanging lights from the ceiling swaying from side to side, and then it was
Yeah.
just, oh, it's just an earthquake.
Mhm. It's just like, "Oh, it's not me. It's not my fault. This is the Earth's fault."
Dang it,
Yeah, I was
Earth.
like, "Oh, go on, go on."
Oh no, that yeah, fun stuff. So I suppose rewinding a lot of things here. Where
Mhm.
does your journey as an artist begin? That do you recall
Oh.
when you first said, I want to pursue art as a career? Was there a particular piece that made you say, I want to do that? Or was it just, you were really good in art class at school and things sort of rolled from there? Where does it start?
I think I think it all came kinda, like, naturally, cause like, I've loved drawing ever since I was a kid, and funnily enough, one of the first things that I learned to draw was Sonic. Sonic and Knuckles and Pikachu, cause like, basically, we were, like, a gaming household, so literally when I was, like, born and I was, like 1 or 2 years old, like, I already knew about Sonic. I already knew about Sonic, and I already had a giant Sonic doll. I don't know why that decision was made. I guess my siblings were like, "Hey, same vibe, I guess. Sonic's good. All right, take this." But yeah, grew up a Sega kid and grew up like looking at these things, like looking at these characters and being like, "I want to draw this. I want to recreate this." And like, with like stuff like the Sonic cartoon and like the Pokemon anime, it gave the realization that these are drawings that move. These are drawings that move, and I want to recreate this somehow. So I just started drawing Sonics, drawing Pikachu's, drawing, all sorts of silly little silly little anime scribbles. And I think that like just kind of progressed as I got older. I don't know if there's a moment where I was like, I specifically want to be like have an esteemed artist profession growing up. I think I was just always like chasing like the fun of it. Like art was always super fun for me. And like the next steps for like progressing my art and where I want to go always felt natural. Like, oh, drawing is fun. I want to draw this. Drawing that is fun. I want to draw that. Oh, I see people are like around me are like taking commissions on DeviantArt because, it seems like the thing to do and also you can use the money to get stuff. I
Yeah.
can do that. I can draw, sure. And that like progressed into like, high school and college. I remember I did some like charity commissions for like the 311 earthquake in Japan.
Mm.
Um, and I think that was like my first big instance of taking commissions. It was like $5 for fully colored like half bodies. Don't charge like that. Don't charge
Don't
like that.
don't do that.
Uh-huh.
Even for charity, you can get more for charity.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, God, I must have been like 15 or 16 and it's just like, well, this seems fine. And also I was like, it's going to a good cause, so it's fine. Um, but that's how that progressed and like by the time I like reached college, I I realized that there were like art professions and art jobs that I could like take part in and like take on. But even then, like first and foremost was like, I love drawing. I want to keep drawing. And it just so happens that drawing can also be a job. So I just want to keep doing this and keep on rocking in the free world about it. And luckily, my parents are pretty supportive of that. So I just ended up chasing it this whole way here.
That's fantastic. And I'm glad that you had folks that were supportive. That eh,
hmm
in my case, obviously our professions are very different. I grew up in a household. My parents were not opposed to video games. Neither of my
hmm
parents were gamers.
Yeah.
They were relatively supportive. Didn't really have any issues with me playing games. The only thing they didn't want when I was younger was like they took a pretty staunch stance of games with guns in them when I was younger, and I
Oh.
don't particularly begrudge them for that. They were fine with Pokemon, they were fine with Mario, and even
hmm
stuff like Star Wars was fine. They weren't really, let's say, I didn't grow up playing Halo or Call of Duty.
Yeah,
That
same.
by the time I was in like high school, that was fine, but they were
hmm
uh, that was the one condition they had when I was elementary school, middle school age, and I think it's a reasonable enough thing.
Yeah.
Um, but when it just comes to professions and unorthodox career paths, shall we say, that I was fortunate to have folks supportive there. What I am kind of
hmm
curious though, from your end, how
hmm
supportive were the professors and teachers you had when they found out
Mm.
that you had an interest in gaming? Because I've been fortunate enough to have a good
Oh.
number of artists on this show, and some have had
hmm
very supportive mentors throughout. I've had others who, when they went to college and their professors found out they wanted to do comics, were told
hmm
that's a terrible idea. You shouldn't do that, and did everything in
Oh.
their power to dissuade them from the type of art that they were interested in. So, what was your experience?
Oh man. Well, growing up, for the most part, my teachers were supportive. I remember like in like getting to high school, we did get an art teacher that wanted to like have us focus more on foundations, but it was in a way that like I want you to focus more on foundations and other things, but you can still choose the subject matter so you can combine them
Yeah.
together. And that's good.
Yeah,
That's
that,
good.
that that's an educational approach. That they aren't
Yeah.
taking a stance on saying your area of interest is invalid. It is, as a
hmm
teacher, I think that it is most valuable for me to focus on teaching you these things, and what you
hmm
do with them is your choice from there, not a
Yeah.
you should take these things and do something other than what you want to do because I think that is a bad career choice.
Yeah, college is a little bit of a different story. Because I did enter in as an art major, but it's kind of I don't know if unsupportive is the word, is rather more than I entered the art major and the art department was not great. It was just very not skewed to where I wanted it to be. like it didn't really have any like illustration foundations or like visual art vis dev foundations or
Mm,
elements of it at all. It was mainly like graphic design and advertising based, fine arts sort of thing. And a lot
gotcha.
of the teachers weren't in like the art market or like art space, the modern art space, online art space at all. Like all of their work had been done like maybe like a decade or so ago in like,
Hmm.
graphic design or maybe like, installation art or something like
Yeah,
that.
and that
And
they have
so,
experience in their field of expertise, but that the
mhm,
field of art is very broad, and that they
yeah.
didn't necessarily have overlap with some more modern elements, much less the ones that you were focused on.
Yeah, and like there's some stuff that like would have like there's some stuff like if they had more of it, I think would have made it kind of worth it. Like if there were more like life drawing courses or like more like courses that just focused on like color and like studying, composition, all that stuff. But there wasn't much of that at all. Like by the time I had already taken all of those courses, I was still only in like my second year. And I looked at like the future sort of curriculum that was laid out for me and the like linked majors within this major, like, and I was just like, not much here, is it? Not much here. And I spoke to some of the upperclassmen and I spoke to some of the teachers on like, hey, I'm like the only one here that's doing like illustration and doing it digitally. And like there's literally a class um where we had like this assignment open for like a Photoshop PSD, and it was like some kind of like photography work. Most people didn't know what a multiply layer was or how to use it, and I was just like, oh no,
Oh, Be-
I was like,
I've
how does
only
this
done
happen?
like bits and pieces with uh, digital art and Photoshop and the
Hmm.
like, and I at least understand the concept of layers. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it took me aback because I was like very used to just like doing digital art at this point. And like, you know what, not everyone has to have the same skill set, and that's perfectly fine. But the way that that had occurred and everything else that was kind of on the plate that, because I was like, do I want to go to art school? Do I want to like transfer? What do I want to do? Um I was just like, it probably wouldn't be very beneficial for me to stay in this major because like I could stay in it and I could finish, but like the
but to what degree is it
assignments,
actually going to be productive for you?
yeah, and also like the assignments still took time to like make and do,
Yeah, and
and
that's
it
time
took
that
time with
could
my
be
actual
invested
work.
in, the skill set that you actually wanted to use and pursue. And that while in high school, it's
Hmm.
one thing to be taught the foundations of art, which are still implemented regardless of if it is digital or physical.
Hmm.
But at this point, if what you're being taught and being told to work on isn't those foundational transferable skills between mediums, that it just then becomes sunk time.
Exactly, exactly. And it was literally like projects like, hey, can you spend like 2 or 3 days in the studio building something out of like these found materials? And I'm just like, I don't know
Yes,
about
this
this
this is
one.
a wonderful, cute concept that is
Yeah.
totally relevant to me and my interests.
Yeah, and it's just like I'm not learning any sort of outside skills that would bring back into, what I what I was doing or even as like an outside hobby. So I was just like, I'm gonna make a change here. And I'd already taken some like Japanese courses because I was just very excited to take some Japanese courses. And I was like, well, I already got some credits towards this. Let's go. And then I just switched my major into Japanese.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Because then at
Ta-da!
least it has that relevance of, if you're interested in working in gaming and Sega and similar companies, that Japanese is going
Mhm.
to be very useful, and that uh, at least at that point, it's going to have some level of relevance and use to you.
Yeah, exactly. And like it was great. Everyone in that major was a lot more chill. And it was just like it honestly it helped me build the foundation for like learning Japanese on my own later. And just kind of like continuing that through line to eventually living in Japan, which was great. I'm just I had a great balance of like learning language, which I do love like learning. a new language and just all the stuff that goes with like reworking your brain to think in a completely different language.
Oh, language was one
Um,
of my
oh, it's
worst
so good.
subjects that I
Oh no.
I I was pretty good at school, and that's not to say I
Hmm.
was terrible at other languages, but 3 years of Spanish and just I was pulling steady mid to low Bs when I was pulling significantly higher grades in my other classes, and
Mm.
it, it wasn't really super fun for me either. That I'm glad that
Yeah.
it tickled your brain in a way that mine wasn't. That I a lot of what
Mhm.
I did to sort of find my path in life was a combination of what do I like, but also process of elimination of that which I clearly don't.
Oh,
Of
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
figuring out, okay, I don't want to be a teacher. I do not have the patience. My mother is a teacher. I know what goes into it. And
Mhm.
I have so much respect for teachers. And I knew from a very
Oh,
young age it was not the path for me. I knew,
yeah.
like, art was actually another one. I knew very
Mhm.
early that, funny enough, thinking back to the classes that I took, just elementary, middle school, when everyone takes our class,
Mhm.
some of the art projects I did back then actually were Sonic the Hedgehog. I have this distinct memory of doing a painting of the 7 Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah!
Or, well, yeah, because it was the 7 Chaos Emeralds surrounding the Master Emerald, and just at least it was relatively geometrical, so easy enough because I was not very good at it, and I know that anyone can get good at art with the time and practice and effort.
Mhm.
And this was once again just a type of thing where it it didn't scratch that itch in my brain, and I did not have the interest in it. But
Mm.
you know, again, I'm glad that it was that for you. But
Yeah.
it's as you were talking about that, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I did actually do Sonic art way back in the day, because
Mhm.
the thing that I would always do in any subject where I didn't have the interest and had a required thing was I would shoehorn in my interests into the project
Yes.
by any means necessary. So anytime that there was art stuff, elementary school, that it was 9 times out of 10 going to be something from video games. I did one of like the unknown alphabet from Pokemon,
Mhm.
and just similar stuff like that of, okay, if I'm not going to necessarily be super thrilled to be doing whatever this thing is, even through college, that I went to school for marketing and business. And
Mhm.
that has some similarities to what you had in high school, where a
Ah.
marketing degree by nature, and I think that any good marketing program should be a completely foundational degree. That if you're
Yeah,
being taught
God.
marketing specific to a particular industry or particular technology, that's bad, because
Yeah.
first off, marketing is going to vary so wildly based on industry and company and product that there's no
Mhm.
practical way for you to do that and to get a good set of skills. That what you want to learn is the foundations, the concepts of marketing that you can then adapt to whatever project you're working on.
Mhm.
Similarly, since marketing and data move so fast, by the time it's in a textbook, it's outdated. So there's
Yeah,
that too.
God. Constantly changing beast.
And just even in college, when I had certain projects and there was any degree of flexibility on the subject matter, that it was going to be something based on video games, because I knew I wanted to do
Mhm.
something in the gaming industry in business.
Yeah.
So that was my way of getting that into different things that I did.
Hell yeah. It's the best kind of incentive when you can just be like, all right, here's the constraints I have to work with, and now here's how I can fit in what motivates me and actually gets me interested and excited, and like shove it in, just
Hmm.
like wiggle it in. And because that's honestly a big motivator for me when it comes to things. I'm just like, can I put my own little spin on it? Can I involve something that I love and care about in it?
Yeah,
Um, and that's the best kind of motivation when you can
and
hit
that's
it.
what I tell folks who are in school, like whether it's little cousins or folks that ask me, tips for school, just in general.
Mhm.
Keep yourself interested. Make sure that there is something of interest. That even if the project is utterly useless to you skill wise,
Mhm.
find a way to, even if you ideally work in a skill that is relevant to you, that might not be vital to the thing, so at least you get practice there. And even if you
Mhm.
can't, by any means necessary, make the topic something that at least interests you, because then at least it's going to be less painful.
Yeah, it'll make it bearable.
Mm,
Bearable, and you can take something away from it.
yeah.
That's the way.
And
Oh,
but I'm glad that you were able to at least sort of recognize, all right, the way this degree is going is not actually
Mhm.
optimal for me and then make a change. That's always good of being able to figure out and not be afraid to actually do that sort of pivot.
Yeah, it's like, and like I definitely had some kind of like, are you sure? And like, kind of like, but you're already like halfway done. Like, why not just finish it? Like, I got like a couple of those, and I was like,
Sunk
it
cost
wouldn't.
fallacy is a very real thing.
Yeah, and it's just like it would not go. It would not fly. I was like, I cannot. I absolutely cannot. I like learning. I like being here, but also the way that things are going with this specific sort of like major and this construction is not, it makes the learn, it sours the learning. It sour because I know I'm not learning anything that like in turn makes me better, or like I'm not learning anything that I can then like use later. It's just a whole bunch of, it was like a bit of a waste of time that was also expensive because you have to buy art supplies and they're like kind of
Yeah, and
expensive.
that's on top of whatever the degree is costing.
Yeah, God. And it was just like, I trust me, trust me. I could be doing something more fulfilling and also cost way less money right now. Trust me. Like, because I was like, it's not like a situation where it's like, all right, I'm throwing college out the window because I very much enjoyed university. Like, I enjoyed the structure and like having access to all those avenues of learning. But that specific avenue and what it had for like art was not it. And so I was like, I'm shifting paths and perspectives for this. And trust me, I did the research. I know what I'm doing. We're going in.
hmm
It was
Yeah,
worth it.
and for me, that I loved my time at college. That
Mhm.
the the degree work I did was probably the most boring stuff of my college experience. That I was involved in a lot of different campus organizations, made some lifelong friends there,
Aw.
um, and that I still saw the value in the degree. And just like I said, sometimes I had to sort of shoehorn in the interests a bit more.
Mhm.
But at the same
Mhm.
time, I did recognize, all right, even if learning these concepts aren't necessarily super exciting, that I still saw the value in it. That there wasn't really ever a question for me of, okay, do I need to make that type of pivot? But
Mhm.
at the same time, I realized that I had to create the, for lack of a better term, value and fun for me in my college experience in other ways, and that it couldn't just be, all
Mm.
right, shoehorn in fun stuff into my projects. That it had to be, all right, find groups to be involved with. That I was in the marching band. That
Mhm.
I played in some orchestras and other groups as well. So I still have all those really good memories, and that there was more than enough justification and value for me in college, and it is something that I've not once regretted. At the same time,
Mhm.
I do recognize that college is not the correct choice for everyone. That people
Very
need
true.
to evaluate and make those choices based on their interests and their situation. Because I have some friends that took a year or two of college, dropped out, and are now incredibly successful in their
Same.
regard, in their particular field of study or
Mhm.
in their field of work. And it's
Super
just
same.
being able to make that choice. And
Yeah.
just, uh, I think it is healthy to have the second guessing, because that means that you are thinking critically about it and that you're not being impulsive. But at the
Mhm.
same time, allowing yourself to say, okay, yes, I need to draw a line, or I need to cut the losses, or I just see a really good opportunity right here. And it means that I won't get my degree, but there's an opportunity right now. And frankly, one thing I always say to folks is uh, real experience is going to be 10 times the value of in-class experience every time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like getting out there and experiencing firsthand what you want to go into and what you want to make is invaluable because you don't really get to put that in practice in a classroom setting.
Yeah,
Um,
just
and
the
also
difference of
God.
theory from
Mhm.
reality.
Yeah, and just double agreeing on just like everyone's paths look different and there's no right path or wrong path. Like it's, if your true path is to like, okay, we gotta book it from here and we gotta get like elbow deep like into the grease paint about what I want to do and restructure this entire thing. Like college, you are no longer part of the equation. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you for the money you took from me. Goodbye. Um, then that's an incredible thing because a lot of people like, even the people that like stay in university but don't think critically about what they want to do and where they want to go. And it's okay to like not know because
Oh yeah.
Let's be real. A lot of the time, none of us know. None of us know. It's just kind of the thought just kind of like sneaks up on you based on like the things you like and like what you might want to do, and then it slowly gains momentum like a giant snowball or a katamari. But like just
Good reference.
making
Good
sure that
reference.
you're like, oh, katamari damashi is so good. But just making sure that like you're examining where you are, and like it's like, what can I do right now, even if it's not the like biggest step or the most like life-changing thing, to like kind of take a step forward to where I want to be or think of where I want to be, is the most important thing, no matter where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Hmm.
along that path, where did conventions come into play for you? That was it a
Oh.
friend who's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be at this convention. You want a table with me?" Or was
Hmm.
this something that you already knew you wanted to do since you were obviously already into the gaming space and that probably knew about conventions before
Hmm.
getting into them as an artist? So where does that come into play?
Yeah, well, I originally went to one or two conventions like as like a kid slash teenager, um, but I never really thought about tabling until because I made a bunch of friends on DeviantArt, especially through like DeviantArt like character roleplay groups, which were quite a thing. They were a big thing back in the day. They might still be now. I have no clue. Um, but I met a really good friend in one of them, my friend Steph. And I found out that she did Artist Alley. And it was for like a con that like I'd been to before. And I was like, "Oh, snap. This sounds cool. Like I can go say hey." And then I think like the offer of like tabling together came up shortly after that. And I was like, "Oh, okay, this sounds fun. Like I draw some fan art. I can do some art. Let's go." And that was my first tabling experience, and from there, we tabled at like many more conventions together, and it was so much fun. And I met so many like new friends through that too. And like, man, just like learning the ins and outs of like Artist Alley and being trained by Artist Alley is like it's a way of life. It toughens you up. It toughens you up and teaches you such resilience. You'll survive earthquakes, you'll survive flooding, you'll survive heat waves, you'll survive heavy luggage, you'll survive your whole display falling down. You'll
Oh
survive
yeah.
long food lines. You'll survive it all.
Yeah, that just since my work has normally been as an exhibitor in a different type of booth, that
Hmm.
I I very much know a chunk of the Artist Alley experience, but not all of it, because I have
Hmm.
a lot of friends who have done the Artist Alley experience, and I know that it is different. But I also know that the artist community at large and the subset of convention artists in that community are very tight knit, and that
Hmm.
folks look out for their own, whether it be something as simple as, "Hey, can you watch my booth for 5 minutes while I go to the bathroom or get something to eat," or just
Hmm.
sort of swapping notes of, "Hey, how are things going for you? Was the check-in good?" Or, "Hey, I'm going to be at this convention later in the year, or I'm considering going to that one. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
Is the staff there good? Is the situation there good?" Because conventions will vary wildly, not only in their operations in terms of how they run, but how well they are run.
Hmm. God, yeah. So true. Because it's just like they're all run differently, and even from like year to year, like management and like rules and like things can change.
Hmm.
Like Otacon's a victim of that. AX is a big victim of that.
Oh boy,
Oh, you know.
I I've been fortunate enough. One of the benefits of being someone like me, that I am a contractor, that
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate enough to work with a variety of different companies, but it always means that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually the one interacting with the venue. I'm not in charge of
Mm.
the pre-planning, the budgeting. That what I specialize in is on-site operations and then a limited amount of pre-show logistics.
Ooh.
Never quite things like shipping, but usually things related to staffing or just uh, planning of, all right, how our operation's going to work on site, how our activation's going to go, things of that nature. So I'm
Mhm.
spared from all that. I am acutely aware of that particular headache and am quite content to not have to deal with it.
Yeah. Oh God. It's you think you get used to it in some ways that, you do, but literally like I just went to Anime Los Angeles this past January, tabling with Steph and helping her out. And God, God, you never fail to get surprised by stuff. It's
Oh, yes.
incredible.
Expect the unexpected. That
Yep.
just for conventions in general, and
Mm-hmm.
one of my sort of mantras for life is expect the worst, hope for the best. That
Exact.
have the
That's so good.
backups, don't be a pessimist, but
Mm-hmm.
think about how things can go wrong and plan for
Mm-hmm.
them. Don't go in
Yeah.
saying everything will go wrong and, that there's a difference, like I said, between being pessimistic and being prepared. And
Mm-hmm.
you learn every time, all right, I was prepared for this, that, and the other, but I wasn't prepared for this. And why would I be prepared for this? I've never
Yeah.
had this corner case happen before, but sure enough, there's going to be a corner case every time.
Oh my God, yeah. I feel like that's probably why. That's probably why, like, when it came to like streaming and things like that, that I like I learned to roll with the punches a lot quicker because of stuff like Artist Alley and like I taught in Japan in 2019 when I lived here for the first time. And that's also a job that's very like, hey, you gotta be adaptable. You gotta be really adaptable. Like, don't expect the worst, but just like literally be just be willing to expect the unexpected and like that anything can happen, and no matter how much you think about and try to mentally prepare, it's not gonna be how you think it's gonna be. So you
Mm-hmm.
might as well like let go to a certain extent and just be ready to roll with whatever gets thrown at you. um and just like literally between like those two like jobs and like livelihoods, it really just like carried over into streaming where it's just like, oh well, something's breaking, okay, we'll roll with it, or like, oh hey, this didn't end up how I expected. I mean, we can still laugh and make jokes and like kind of laugh at it and still have a good time. And it's
Yeah,
just like that's a life, that's an important life skill.
absolutely. And that exact sort of paradigm is how I wound up with VTuber Talking, wound up with streaming.
Hmm.
And I mentioned this when we spoke the other day that
Hmm.
just having done events and whatnot like this, that I just really enjoy events, live productions, shows, things of that nature. And in
Hmm.
2020 and 2021, boy, were those not happening.
Oh, they
And
sure were.
and I realized, well, streaming could be that way of doing it virtually. And the concept of VTuber Talk came to me, and here we are. And
Hmm.
it was one of the things that in one of my first streams, I had a mini monologue of embrace the scuff, love the scuff, which
Hmm.
is very similar to the overarching concept we've been discussing of just expect things to go wrong and be able to roll with those punches. And that
Yeah.
I have found that I am not as frazzled as some people who might not have those experiences are. That heck, just before we went live, when we were initially setting up our video,
Hmm.
you had a problem with your lighting. We were like, okay, this is weird. You were
Yeah.
trying different things, but you and
Hmm.
I were sort of on the same wavelength of, okay, we have not one but two backup scenarios that we're not freaking
Hmm.
out. It's like, okay, this is a little
Yeah.
weird, but we'll figure it out. And
Hmm.
fortunately, we were actually able to figure out the root cause of it. So now that's one more thing that we now know of if we see this happen in
Hmm.
other collabs or,
Yeah.
in other situations, that it's that added experience. But at the same
Hmm.
time, we were ready and prepared to just roll with those punches and be like, okay, if this doesn't work in the next couple minutes, we're just going to go to a backup plan. We might know that it's
Hmm.
not as efficient or as clean as plan
Hmm.
A, but it will work. And
Hmm.
another mantra I have is if the audience doesn't know something went wrong, nothing went wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's just like it's I also like love the mantra that's just like if you can make it work, if you can piece it together and make it work, then you've succeeded. It doesn't matter how you've done it. If you've done it, then you've done it. And just like, yeah, we handled it and took care of it like real quick, real good. And like here we are.
Yeah, we made it.
We made it. But yeah, I never thought of myself as a perfectionist initially, but God, after like those experiences of just like, all right, we're throwing you in the washing machine, have fun. You really just learn to like roll with anything that comes your way.
Hmm.
And it really, really helps because it's just like, when stuff inevitably, goes wrong or is slightly out of place, you're just like, all right, hey, it's all part of the whole thing. It's part of the whole thing. I expected this.
Yeah.
Let's vibe.
It just it it lowers your stress level because
Mm-hmm.
all right, I've had problems like this before, or just the Monty Python Black Knight. I've had worse. This is a scratch.
Yeah. I've had worse. Like honestly, like last year, I even streamed for like several months, with like a triple digit bit rate with very bad internet, getting him to head with soundproofing, during every stream, and you could hear it, because the whole place I was at was not suited for internet. And I was like, but you know what? Hey, at least I'm funny. At least we're having a good time, and I
Yeah,
know I can be funny. So it's like, it's fine.
and the show
It
goes
really,
on.
the show goes on, and it really gives you just kind of like a tough outer shell to deal with this sort of stuff, which
Mm,
in turn helps you push through all sorts of things.
indeed. I'm now
Hmm.
going to ask a unfair question, a very difficult question.
Oh
What is your favorite Sonic game?
no! Oh no! Oh, okay. I gotta go. What immediately popped into my head and my heart, and it's Sonic Adventure 1.
Ah, okay.
That's my favorite guy.
My favorite is Adventure 2. Still have a very soft spot for
Oh.
Adventure 1. Adventure
Mhm.
2 is one of my favorite games of all time, just
Adventure 2 is so
unironically.
good. Yeah. It's so good. Like it's honestly like it's hard to like pick between them. Um on my end, like I chose Adventure 1 because I love the character select, like the character
Mm.
select
Oh, the
roster that they
wheel.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just remember like being like 8 years old and playing through like Emerald Coast and seeing
Oh,
that orca jump over the boardwalk and being like, games can be like this, and
oh
then
yeah.
that changed my trajectory as a person.
Yeah, the Sonic Adventure games were really good about having those cinematic moments in just all their levels
Yeah.
of, you're playing Shadow on Radical Highway into, and
Mhm.
that there's
Oh,
the
Radical
jet
Highway.
flyovers that are totally
Yeah.
unnecessary, that you're not supposed to interact with the jets, but just
Mhm.
those little bits of sort of grandiose scenery and flourishes. It adds a lot to those games, and I think it's one of the things that they do really, really well.
Yeah, it's so good, and the music is always, like, on point with it.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god, so you just have the perfect, like, experience of just, like, being dazzled by whatever Sega has prepared for you, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so good. It's so good.
I am a big video game music buff. Video game music has been a
Mhm.
significant part of my life in many ways, and the Sonic
Mhm.
Adventure 2 soundtrack was the first
Oh.
physical game soundtrack I ever owned.
Oh my god, that's a good first choice. That's a
Yeah.
really good first
And
choice.
even before that, I would spend hours just on the sound test screen, just listening
Mhm.
to the things, and it made me want to have
Yeah.
sound test in every game. And I'm very sad that very few games actually have that.
Yeah, Sega was like, "We got you." Sega was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, yo, we got you."
And not only is
Oh,
the score good, but also Crush 40 is amazing. Put
God,
Crush
Crush
40 in the Sonic
40!
movies, you cowards.
Put them in! Please put them in!
They could
Please!
they paid to have Uptown Funk and whatever the heck royalties and licensing fees were required. I'm sure
Mhm.
you can afford Crush 40.
You
If they
know you
don't
can.
have it in
God,
the third movie, if we don't get like
we don't
Escape from
get
the
it.
City or Live and
Oh,
Learn, so help me,
yeah.
I'm not expecting it. I
If you
can't expect it, but I can
I
dream.
can't. I know I can't. I know I can't expect it, but I'm just like, can you just sneak a little bit of, City Escape in for me and maybe
Yeah.
like some Chow, you know?
At least maybe put in a leitmotif with an orchestral arrangement that, even if it's not just putting the songs in
Oh.
wholesale, which I do think could work,
Mhm.
but,
I think it could work
at least
too.
weave it in there somewhere maybe.
God, it could be like the orchestra. Like it could be
Yeah.
like the Sonic Orchestra where they had like that beautiful like orchestral version of like Believe in Myself that made me
Mm,
cry.
oh, yeah.
Oh, it's like I know y'all can do it. I know y'all can. Please. Please. Oh my god. It's like it's the Shadow movie. Come on.
That this actually brings me to a fun thought experiment that I've had with a couple of my guests.
Mhm.
You are working for the Sonic movie that you have full creative license, unlimited budget, and
Oh my god.
whoever you want will say yes. Who do you cast as Shadow?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Okay. I can't say Idris Elba because he's already Knuckles.
Yes.
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. Who would make a good Shadow? Who would make a good edgy Shadow? Oh man. It also doesn't help that I'm not Wesley Snipes.
Ooh, that's
Wesley
an
Snipes
answer
could
I
be
haven't
fun.
heard before.
Wesley Snipes could be fun. I also have had like a thought swirling around regarding this too. I have not voiced it in public channels yet. But if Rouge is in this movie, which I think she might be, if Shadow's there, I would love a Doja Cat Rouge.
Ooh, okay. I'm
Doja
on
Bat.
board with this.
Yeah, it would be so. It would fit so well, and then you'd have Doja Cat and Idris Elba like flirting with each other. That would be wild. That would be wild. I
Two
think
of
I should
the
also make a good
favorite
Rouge.
conceptual castings that I've had and a couple of my guests have had
Mhm.
for Shadow,
Mhm.
Benedict Cumberbatch,
Oh, oh, the Doctor Strange.
and the one that I like a bit better than that because of one of his recent performances, Robert
Mhm.
Pattinson, because of what he did with the Batman,
Oh,
has
oh,
me
that
thinking
could
that
be
he can
good.
play that type of moody character and that he would be able to pull that one off. But
Oh, that's a
I do
really
like
good
Wesley
choice.
Snipes as well.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes could be pretty fun. God, who is I also, this is gonna be a weird and you could probably like date me on this on what I was into. But I'm like, what about Tyler Hecklin? Like, what about Derek Teen Wolf? What's he doing? He could be Shadow.
I'll admit I didn't
Oh,
watch Teen Wolf at all, so I can't
oh
necessarily
yeah.
say, "Oh, I can see it," but I'm gonna
No,
trust
that's
your
fair.
judgment here.
Yeah, he's edgy wolf boy. He's edgy wolf boy.
Mm.
Teen Wolf is a series that me and my friend Karina have bonded over as we both watched quite a bit of it. And Tyler Hecklin was the edgy edgelord wolf of that show. And I mean, I'm just like thinking about it, I'm just like, well, I mean, he did a pretty good job. I don't know what he's been in lately, but he did a pretty good job back then on the MTV. That could be a Shadow contender.
Mm. I'm excited to hear who they get because,
Hmm.
you know, the Sonic movie casting has just been solid across the board. That there's
It's been so
really
solid.
no performances that I look at and say, just this was completely off the mark. I
Yeah.
didn't expect Idris Elba, but as
Oh
soon
my
as his
god.
name popped up, I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. That's
Yeah.
great.
God, I have a story about that if I'm
Oh,
allowed to share it.
please.
Oh, okay. So, I believe it was actually like the day before that was announced. Um, a friend of mine, Barry, also known as Barry is Streaming, also formerly Game Grumps Barry. The day before that casting was done, or announced, he played the Sonic version of Two Point Hospital, which is basically like a hospital sim game where you run a hospital, build stuff. It's kind of sim-like, that kind of thing. And he did make most of the people working in the hospital Knuckles. I think he made the entire Knuckles hospital, including a special doctor named Dr. Octor Knuckles the Doctor.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
it was an amazing time. I specifically when I saw he was doing this, threw everything down and decided to draw Knuckles as a doctor and put in several Sonic posters of art that I had made. And it was an amazing time. And it was literally like a festival of Knuckles. It was absolutely amazing. Also, yeah, shout out to Barry, he's the best. And literally had that really fun day. Literally, like next day, Idris Elba is announced as Knuckles. I am hooting and hollering because
Yeah,
like
just
Black Excellence Knuckles.
and talk about
Just
manifesting it into the universe there.
literally he literally manifested it in like the best possible way. And I'm just like, for Black Sonic fans, like we always got the vibe. We always like it seems like something that's just clicked with us. Like when we talk about our experience with Sonic as kids, that Knuckles was and is like black coded. So adding that in on top of just like having that manifested out of like thin air, like I celebrated. I went out and bought like a steak.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and just it I feel like you can't bring Shadow into the equation at this point and not have it be the Sonic Adventure 2 plot in some way. That obviously the movies have done their own thing, that they're not following anything established one-to-one, but they are very much keeping the spirit of the characters in the games. And I feel like just historically that for the introduction of Shadow, that I'm not expecting a beat-for-beat recreation, but I'll be pretty upset if we don't get Space Colony Arc in some regard.
Oh my god, Maria.
That I want Maria, and even if Jim Carrey sticks to his guns and does retire, which I'm hoping they can pull him back for one more, but if you think about it, he's not actually required for that story to work. That's true. He enables a lot of it, and that it makes the most sense with him, but everything hinges on Shadow for that game, for the plot of that game to work, and that I'm sure they can find alternate methods to get Shadow where he needs to be and for the plot to still work, even if Robotnik or Eggman is not there. I'd like him to be, but I don't think that interrupts the actual plan of the movie.
Yeah, I would also like him to be there, at least, because it's just like with the other, if they want to extend out to like other sort of like Sonic lore and like Sonic game plot lines, those aren't as Robotnik involved until you get to like Frontiers. And so like if this is Jim Carrey's last, then like it works out. It works out as like tying a ribbon on things.
And goodness knows, his performance before we had the Sonic design rework, that was the one thing that everybody agreed on. Of Jim Carrey as Robotnik is inspired. I will go see this movie for his performance, even if I am cringing at any time that Sonic is on screen. And then Sonic got fixed, and it was a win-win all around, and it was just a good movie.
Yeah, it was. I'm so glad that Sonic got fixed and resolved, and that they got like Tyson Hesse on the horn. Tyson has done so much for Sonic fans. Thank you, Tyson. Thank you, Tyson, and the entire team that also had to rework that movie and is like, working on the subsequent movies. Thank you all.
Yeah, just
thank goodness.
Worth the delay, worth the time and effort. I hope those artists got paid properly.
Me too, because that must have been crunch and a half. And while I'm glad that this, this version of Sonic is the one that we ended up with, I hope they're all doing all right and they got so much money. I hope they got so much money and thanks and respect.
Yeah.
Because good grief, the undertaking that must have taken.
Absolutely.
Crazy. Yeah.
Moving from one Sega franchise to obviously the elephant literally in the room here. So when did you play your first Yakuza game?
Oh my gosh. I think it was 2017.
Okay, so it's relatively recent. Oh. Uh-oh.
Oh.
I just lost visual on you.
Oh
no! You're still here. I still see you. Why is this... Yep, we started talking about Kiryu and said, oh, can't do this. That's so weird, because I'm seeing you on the back end. The video is still... What the... Give me a second. Let me try... That's... Congratulations, Onsta. This is breaking new ways.
Oh, no.
Okay, I've got it fixed.
Japan. We're fixed? Yay!
Yep, I've got it back.
Yay!
I think Video had an update because I'm noticing a slight difference in the UI layout. So if they had something recently, we might be hitting some small bugs, but
I see.
We are back anyways. So yeah, sorry for interrupting.
No worries at all. So my background is I played the Shenmues. I played the Shenmues when they came out. So basically, I think I was like 10 or 11. And my siblings bought the Shenmues, and I was like, these games are great. I'm sure Miss Shenmue, and I proceeded like that for years without knowing what Yakuza was, because like we never bought any of the Yakuza games.
Not
And
exactly
in
kid-friendly games.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, listen, this is the same household. I knew what Resident Evil was when I was 5, and I played Code Veronica when I was like 9. So it was
Fair.
like, yeah, there wasn't much of a like a hey, you can't do this. There were no age restrictions on stuff. We just like I guess never got across to like buying them, I guess.
It also just wasn't super prevalent in the West
Yeah.
until more recently.
Yeah, that's true because of Zero. Zero kind of
Mhm.
like made everything explode, and that was my first Yakuza. Um, and my God, what a perfect game, especially for like someone that was like looking for like a Shenmue. You know, I was like, man, I sure do miss Shenmue. What happened to Shenmue? And then I stumbled across like Yakuza Zero, which is like what everyone's talking about, and I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, and then I play it, and I'm like, this is one of the best games I've ever played in my life. This is like this is a perfect game. Like the writing's amazing, the characters are like incredible. There's so much extra stuff to do. I can wander around 1980s Japan and it's just like the music is incredible and it just has the whole package and it's like it's reminiscent of Shenmue, but it's also like so much of its own thing. And like the character writing is so strong that it just like it swept me away. I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
And
Ah,
slightly dumb question because, like I said, I have not actually played any of the Yakuza games myself. And while I was able
mhm.
to fortunately recognize Kiryu, I don't recall who is the protagonist in which game. Is
Yeah.
Kiryu the Yakuza 0 protagonist?
Yeah, so there's two protagonists in Zero. Kiryu is one of them and the other is Majima.
Okay, yeah, because I'm aware of
Yeah.
Majima. I didn't actually know that they were dual protagonists there.
Yeah, I believe he gets introduced in like chapter 6, I believe. Might be a little earlier, but like it's wild cuz I did not see this coming. Like at all. People who like were following the game up to its release were like, "Oh my god, that's Majima," because he's very different to how he's portrayed in future games. Um, and Zero does an amazing job, whether you're a longtime Yakuza fan or a new one, of like table setting and explaining why these characters are the way that they are, even though like in one of their cases they're very, very, very different. And sometimes seen well, sometimes I say like half the time seen as like a gag character. In Majima's case. And they paint him as like, oh my god. They really give him an amazing, painful, like moving backstory and journey over the course of Zero. Um, and I think like coming from Zero, a lot of people are just like, oh my god, Majima. Oh my god, I have a new type now, and it's called Majima. Uh-oh. It was real. They had an amazing job.
Was there any particular scene or just level in that game that sort of
Mm.
has stuck with you beyond all the others? That obviously the game as a whole, like you said, has been very impactful. Were there any like sort of transcendent moments for you playing that one?
Oh my gosh. I'll say one of them. I'll say one of them because I still do know people now that are like just playing Yakuza Zero or want to play Yakuza Zero. This is a little spoilery, so if anyone, if you're worried about spoilers, feel free to mute and come back in maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. Um,
I'm just gonna make myself forget.
yeah, that's the spirit. Just make yourself forget. There's this scene between two of the characters, Kiryu and his Yakuza brother. Like they were both like they're both orphans and they grew up together basically. Nishiki, um, where Kiryu's on the run from several several crime men because he's no longer in the Yakuza, but he's also interfering in ways because of shenanigans happening. And his 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 bro Nishiki finds him and like he's like, "I'll get you out of here, bro, because everyone's after you and wants to kill you." Um, and he drives him out to the wilderness. Uh, and Kira's like, "You really saved me back there, thank you." And Nishiki once like they get out of the car and they're talking a bit, Nishiki pulls a gun on him
The
and is
betrayal.
oh no, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. Um, because he's like, Kiryu, bro, I care about you so much. And what they're going to do to you if they catch you, I don't want to think about that. It's going to be awful. Like he tries to sell it like he's tough. Um and he's like doing Kiryu like a favor, which Kiryu sees
Sparing him
what he's doing.
almost.
Yeah, exactly, sparing him. Um and Kiryu sees this and he's like, all right, Nishiki, like don't miss. Um and Nishiki fires and he misses. And he like drops the gun and he's like reduced to like a sobbing mess because he's like, Kiryu, I'm literally like nothing without you. And I'm not doing the scene justice like at all. But he's just like, I don't want you to go through the torture and hell that what like the Tojo and the Dojima family is gonna do to you. But I can't even bring myself to like do you the justice and mercy of just like giving you a mercy kill because I'm literally nothing without you and I can't like imagine a life without you in it. And it's so heartbreaking. It's literally so heartbreaking. And Kiryu has to tell him to like keep it together, though like Kiryu's also like emotionally like not doing well, but he's not to the point of crying. Nishiki is the more emotional one out of the two of them. And he's like, don't worry, Nishiki, don't worry. I'll get out of this and I can fix this and we'll bring justice to our dad that's in jail, Kazama, our adopted dad that's in jail, and basically fix everything. And Kiryu then takes the car and leaves him there. But it's such a moving scene and it's so beautiful and like painful. Especially since in future games, Kiryu and Nishiki do get pried apart forcefully. Because Kiryu like pretty much takes the fall for him, and how cruel the Yakuza world is to Nishiki changes him irreversibly, and a very painful 10 years go by, and they find themselves as enemies, which eventually Kiryu gets to him, but then it's too late. But it's just like it's such a beautiful and painful like scene. So much so that I think that's also why they hired Nishiki's voice actor back to voice Ichiban in the newer Yakuza games because he did such an insane, amazing performance.
Do you
Mm-hmm.
know if they did they keep a consistent voice actor for those same roles in English as well?
I don't know because I know that like I only know of 2 Yakuza dubs because I usually play the games in Japanese. I know of the PS2 Yakuza dub, which it has Mark Hamill as Majima, and it's a whole time. I'm not a fan of that one. The Yakuza 7 dub I know is very good, and people are always praising the cast, which I also think they're amazing. But I don't know who plays Kiryu and I don't know who plays Majima, and I think that like because like Kuroda and Ugaki, who have been voicing Majima in Japanese since the PS2 days, have been doing it for so long, and they're still doing it. I'm just like, I don't know if I can ever like
Yeah, once you
listen to
have a
the English
voice in
voice
your
actor for
head
them.
for a character, it is very
Yeah.
difficult to have that switch.
Yeah, especially because they're like both like once you hear them, you'll know exactly what I mean. They're both so specific. And they fit the characters so well that like for everyone else, like everyone else has great voice acting too. But I'd be absolutely fine like listening to them in English, especially since like they absolutely kill it in 7. But with Kiryu and Majima, I don't think I can do that because they're like so definitively them in Japanese that like even if like they did like a good job in like technically in dubbing them, I don't know if it would come across the same or be the same. And so I'm just like I've thought about like how to handle that for when playing 7, which I'm currently playing 7 in Japanese, but like for when I listen to the dub, I'm like, is there a mod that like keeps like Kiryu and Majima like subbed? just so I can keep them, as they are and just listen to everyone else in English. Oh.
Yeah, the language toggle by character has not been
Mhm.
innovated in any game that I know of,
Oh, that's such a good idea. Why isn't that a thing?
because then that's so many freaking variables.
God, yeah, that's true, but it'll be so good. It'll be so smart and so good.
Someday, maybe, hopefully.
Mhm.
Sega
Hopefully
UI
so.
engineers, if you're listening in, this one's free. This idea's free.
Yeah, this idea is free. This one's free.
So, I think the first time I tuned into one of your streams, you were playing Pokemon, and that you've been
Oh.
playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion quite a bit lately, and
Mhm.
just posting some of your best reactions. You actually had one just earlier today with
Yeah.
Nosferatu, which was,
Oh,
oh my goodness. I think
Nosferatu.
I was more impressed with the name Nosferatu than
Yeah.
the both versions of that fusion, which were equally appalling.
They were rough. They were rough. We really said, hey, let's flip and reverse Granddad and just turn him into a nasty gummy vampire. It's amazing the range of insane things that can happen in Pokemon Infinite Fusion.
Yeah,
Like,
and just it's
it's
been so cool
incredible.
seeing the community of artists contributing to that
Yeah.
since, it started out with just, all right, we're going to literally splice half and half sprites, but that
Mhm.
the community just was able to start making all these different unique sprites, and that then the developers were able to implement all of them. It's
Mhm.
been really cool. I haven't actually played the game myself. I've played all of the mainline Pokemon games, but haven't gotten around to Infinite Fusion. But I've loved watching it just because most people are going to be doing the randomizer, so really every run is different. There's obviously so many iterations of fusions that different runs
Mhm.
are going to be wildly different, anyways. Um,
Yeah.
where does your Pokemon journey begin?
Oh my god. It's just like Sonic, it's early. I think it came a little bit after Sonic, but I was like definitely watching the Pokemon anime by the time I was like 6, 5 or 6. Um and I was absolutely enamored with it. Like the art direction was like amazing, like the music was great, and just like cuz like I was already like super into games even when I was like 5 and 6 because I had siblings that were like, "Hey, we have a lot of game systems, play them." And I was like, "Wow, bright colors. Oh, I get to have these?" Wow, like literally they like handed me a Game Gear which stayed like plugged in. Or like, "Hey, yeah, play some Sonic or something." I'm like, "Yay!" But yeah, I started real early and I had like the Pikachu Game Boy Color, the blue and yellow one. I had like
Mm,
almost all of the Pokemon games. I think just about all of them. Um, like going from like red to blue to yellow to like finding some way. I forget how I found out how, but I remember like getting my hands on like Pokemon Green, like a physical
oh,
copy of
wow.
Pokemon. Yeah. We like to go to like flea markets and like other funky places to like find little knickknacks and like, people who specialize in, oh, we're selling all these games, or oh, we're selling all this stuff. And I got my hands on a copy of Pokemon Green, which I did not understand a lick of, but because I played like Red and Blue, I was like, it's pretty much the same. But I played it anyway, and I was so happy and excited about it. I also had like, I had like a whole like big box of like little Pokemon figures that like I bought and collected so much of. I had binders of Pokemon cards. I even like, I even got like the little Game Boy printer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I was into
The
it.
Game Boy printer, which had maybe half a dozen uses or something.
Like not many uses at all, but it was just like I was like I want it, and like my parents were like, all right, hey, you're the youngest, so let's spoil you. Um, and yeah, like the strategy guides, like the pocket Pikachu's, both of them, the yellow one that was black and
Oh,
white, and like the gray one that was in color, all of it. I had
that
all of it.
I was also in the right place, right time to grow up with Pokemon. Like uh,
Yeah.
too late to explore the Earth, too early to explore the stars, just in time to live the life of a Pokemon fan. That Pokemon Yellow was the first video game I ever owned, and I got it for my 7th birthday. And
Mm-hmm.
I put in more hours, I think, on Silver than any other generation.
Oh,
I just
Silver.
played that one basically nonstop
The
for
battery
several years.
died in my Silver.
Oh,
Like,
I think mine
I
has at
played
this
it so
point too.
much. Mm-hmm.
And like I started to fall out in Gen 3. I didn't get Ruby or
Mm.
Sapphire on release.
Mm.
But then when Emerald came out, I saw it and was like, let's try and see if Pokemon is still as good as I remember from Silver because, I enjoyed it so much. And sure enough, yeah. And it's been very consistent from there that the delay
Yeah.
was because I hadn't actually gotten a Game Boy Advance until sort of later in the life cycle. So that's how I missed
Mm.
Ruby Sapphire. But it's been so
Mm-hmm.
cool to watch the growth of Pokemon, and people said, oh, it's a fad and
Oh my
everything, and
God.
now Pikachu is one of the most recognizable fictional characters in the world alongside
Yes.
Santa Claus, Sherlock Holmes, and Mario.
Oh my God. It's so true. It's so true. And I'm so happy for Pokemon. Like, literally, it also means like there's just like so many amazing household Pokemon products. Like living in Japan, that you can just go
Mm-hmm.
to a store and be like, oh yeah, let me get this Slowpoke magnetic door stopper that holds my keys. And like I can hang my umbrella on. Or like, hey, let me get this Pikachu umbrella. Or like, hey, let me get this like, you know, Snorlax rice cooker.
Yeah,
Just
just
like
these
literally anything.
functional things.
Yeah, it's so nice. And like it feels like especially nice to like be here and experience it after like I remember like being in like middle school and like stumbling upon a Pokemon fan site and just loading up my entire like MP3 player with like the original Poke Rap in Japanese.
Yeah. Ooh,
Pokemon
okay.
Eru Kana. Yeah, it's if you ever get a chance to like watch them, they're on YouTube. They're amazing. The Pokemon like the song production for like the Pokemon anime series is absolutely bonkers and incredible, especially the early stuff. Because you have
Oh,
like
yeah.
Pokemon Irukana, Pokemon Irukana Neo, which is like for Gold and Silver, the Poke Rap. And you have stuff like Can You Draw the Pokemon, which is like a weird like I don't know if they put this on DVD or what. That's like imagine like a smooth 3D model experience of these two wild-looking characters. I think it's like Imakuni and Raymond, and they teach you how to draw Pokemon and like sing songs where they're making puns out of like Pokemon names in Japanese, and like it's really funny. It's really funny and easy to understand because it's like meant for children, but the songs are also like super duper catchy, and I was just like, this is everything to me.
And even in the English versions that we had, Pikachu's jukebox
Yeah.
and just all
Yeah!
the
To
the
be
to be
a
a
master!
master. Yes.
God, yeah! All I run to Viridian City!
And just
Those were good!
yeah, and that that was the type of thing that no other show was really doing, and that Pokemon was actively investing in that way back in the day. And even now, it's very rare that you're going to see that many original songs for a series, like even now.
Yeah.
And the fact that they
Even
were
now.
doing that from day one, I think, is part of why Pokemon grew the way it did. That it is like from a business standpoint, the rise of Pokemon is so fascinating to me because it really was everywhere. That the line from Spaceballs,
Yeah.
merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made, and just that
Yeah.
it was everywhere, and that they had the card game, the video game, all the different toys, all the paper plates for birthday parties, and just
Yeah!
everything
The
you could
plastic
imagine.
cups. You know? Everything. Like they had remember the fake Pokédexes that they sold?
Yes.
Oh, I miss those. I had one and I loved it.
And that it's just that helped create the foundation for the Goliath of a franchise that it is today. That it is the highest grossing multimedia franchise, period. That it crushes Star Wars, crushes Disney princesses. That if you stack up all of the different franchises that Disney owns, that I think that Disney in aggregate is bigger than Pokemon, but in terms of just single franchises, that it's Pokemon first, and if memory serves, it's actually Hello Kitty second.
Oh, Sario, get it.
That over the years, in terms of merchandise sales, that it actually has Hello Kitty pulling ahead of even things like Star Wars.
Oh my god, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Oh god, I'm really glad for that. I only got like a little bit of exposure to Hello Kitty growing up, but I remember like going to like finding in my journeys a Sanrio store.
Oh,
Um,
wait a minute. Oh, I think I'm wrong here. Why did I could have
mhm.
sworn that it was up higher. I'm now just checking Wikipedia in real time, and it is not as high as I thought. It's still very high, though.
It could have changed. Listen, they could have just updated it, but I
Yeah.
mean, I
Pokemon is
don't
still number one by a significant margin.
Pokemon. I'm glad. Like, listen, I don't disbelieve that Sanrio has the power to overtake most things. Their branding is so strong.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that they've made most of it just in Japan alone, because, it's a thing here in the
Yeah.
US, but it's not the same degree. Not by a long shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's Sanrio characters that I've never even heard of that I'm just learning about. Like the one that's just like a piece of fried salmon.
What?
Yeah, there's a Sanrio character that's just a piece of fried salmon with eyes and a mouth. And I forget her name, but she is incredible. I'm gonna look up her name right now because I remember finding like her out and being like, what is? Oh my god! Oh, Karimi-chan. It's Karimi-chan. I can send her to you if you would like.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll put her in Discord. She's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's adorable.
yeah. She's just a piece of like salmon that goes in your breakfast with
It-
like a body.
And it's not just the piece of salmon, but they then put this small little body on the bottom of it.
Yeah, and it's just like here she is. They even made like here's a whole set of stickers of Karimi-chan. They're a little tiny, but she's doing various activities. And I'm just like, I can't believe this.
It's like
I
I'm
can't
adding it
believe
to OBS right now.
It's like I'm just like this is a character design. This is a character design. How the heck?
There we
Yeah.
go. There they are.
Oh, there she is. Oh, why is Kiryu's facing the other way? Is he looking at her? Kiryu?
Yep.
He wants to eat her. Kiryu can't eat that.
Kiryu, no. There's
please
food
no.
backstage if you're hungry. Please do not eat the adorable sentient piece of fish.
He said he wouldn't.
Thank
he said
goodness.
he wouldn't. Thank God.
Otherwise, we'd have a scene. No, don't want that here.
Yeah, we can't have that here, Kiryu. We can't. I don't want to go back to jail, Kiryu. I don't
Not
wanna go
again.
back. Not again. Oh God, but yeah, no power to Sanrio.
Mm. So, you mentioned that your favorite Legend of Zelda game, and obviously that's very topical right now because we are, as I checked, 4 days, effectively 3 days away from the release of Tears of the Kingdom,
Oh
which
my God.
I expect many people to be playing and no-lifing very, very soon. But your
Yeah.
favorite, funny enough, is one of the few Zelda games that was not made by Nintendo, but made by, funny enough, Sega, Minish Cap.
Oh, it was a Capcom jam. It was a Capcom
Sorry,
jam.
Capcom, not
Yeah.
Sega.
No, wait, listen, Sega's always on my mind. Everything is Sega, even when it's not. Everything. But yeah, no, that's my favorite. And it's not like I like the other Zeldas less, because I spent so much time with Breath of the Wild. Like that was my outdoor simulator for a long time, where I just go around and simulate being outside, do some fun side quests. I was a little Sam. But the charm of Minish Cap, especially like when I got to experience it, was just so magical. Like, just right off the bat, the sprite work, the storyline, just the being able to like play it on handheld, and just like there's a charm about it that like I feel like only Capcom could give. And it dazzled me so much and charmed me so much and stuck with me for a really, really long time. And I miss that. I miss when like Nintendo would be like, okay, Capcom, hey, make something. Like, I wish they still did that kind of thing. I know things
Because
change.
those games did pretty well, if memory serves, that they sold just fine.
Yeah, and like whenever you bring up Minish Cap, people are generally like, "Oh hell yeah, Minish Cap
Yeah,
is great." Like even
it,
if it's not their favorite.
yeah, this wasn't a CDI redo where
Mhm.
it is something that Nintendo very much pretends does not exist.
Mhm. It's like it's real. It's real. It's good. Everyone knows that it's good, and like it makes me like it makes me wish that like I'm sure like something, times change and like handhelds kind of more or less went out of style a bit. We still have the Switch, which is like so portable, but like we don't really have handheld stuff anymore, unless you count the Steam Deck,
Or
which
just
like
that it's
you know
become phones.
it's become phones. So we don't really get that anymore. But I really miss that era of games and just like that kind of like 2D pixel charm and like quirkiness that you could really get out of a Game Boy Advance game. Like the amount of just like charming, exciting, beautifully done Game Boy Advance games that like Minish Cap or like Summon Night or like Klonoa or like Starfy that were just like super easy to pick up and play, super cute, really charming from an artistic direction, just like super duper, just like gorgeous and enjoyable to look at. The fact that we don't really get those anymore or get much of 2D in the kind of like
At least not in the
big
AAA
company
world.
space. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Cause like you'll get in like an indie space, which is great. I'm really glad that we're still getting those in some capacity. And people are just making the stuff that they wanna like see and the stuff that, they wanna play. But like we don't really get that out of AAA companies and AAA games anymore. And it makes me sad because God, those games were just like such a treat to explore and look at.
Yeah, I understand the business reasons and how we got to microtransactions on the phone, but I had always hoped that a
Mm-hmm.
more robust full game marketplace and just market as a whole would
Mm-hmm.
emerge alongside it. That I had hoped, all right, I understand that if you want to make your gotcha games microtransaction games, that I think that those games do have a place, and that it's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful, especially that if you don't have the expendable income to spend on a game, that those types of games are subsidized by the paying players, and that you can still play most of a game and have that experience for free, and that's great. But I
Mm-hmm.
had hoped that there would be, at least a segment of the mobile gaming market where you could get,
Yeah.
for $30, $40 on the App Store, that you're going to pay full game price, but that you would have full game
Mm-hmm.
development and resources put into it.
Oh, please, God. I wish so much. So that way they could live on in some form. Cause it's like I do like mobile games. I like them. I'd be more than pleased if like, that that style of like handheld gaming moved over to phones. And like I guess in some capacity you can argue that's what they're trying to do with Apple Arcade. I'm not subscribed to Apple Arcade. Um but it's like, man, I put them somewhere. Please,
Yeah.
put it and support it somewhere. Please,
Yeah,
God.
we now have them effectively on Steam, and by virtue of that, the Steam Deck, but it's certainly not
Mhm.
quite the same of
Yeah.
back in our day.
Back in our day, I had a Game Boy. I like at one point I had like 8 Game Boy Advances. And
Why?
I was
Like
I
two, I could understand. Like, all right, maybe you lost
mhm,
one, got another, and then you found the first one. How do you end up with
mhm.
8, Onsta?
Well, it's that's a funny story. So I bought my first one. Or rather, it was bought for me. It was an Indigo one. It was a
Classic,
standard
classic.
Game Boy Advance. Had a worm light with it because you know the tradition of
Oh
buying a
yeah.
worm light with your Game Boy.
Yep. That was the other thing I was gonna say. Back in our day, we didn't have backlit screens, and that if you were in the back
We
of the
had a
car
worm
and it
light.
was nighttime and you
Mhm.
didn't have one of those worm lights, you were going to
Mhm.
just be desperately angling your Game
Yeah.
Boy to the side, hoping that you could get enough light from the street
Mhm.
lamps wherever your parents were driving you with enough
Mhm.
consistency to play your game.
Yeah, and it's just like I'm gonna catch the strobe of a street lamp. Okay, we're getting into town. I can see something. I can see part of Wario Land. Okay. Oh, but yeah, so that was my first one. Eventually, I upgraded to an SP, which I believe was like the blue one, the
Mm,
regular blue one.
and
Um,
and the not the first handheld backlit screen, but Nintendo's first, and just
Yeah, it's like, listen, I
that
had
game changer. Oh,
yeah, they're like, we finally have another backlit system handheld that's not a Game Gear. Finally, finally, and it doesn't take 8 batteries. Um,
and burn through them in 4 hours.
God, yeah, I always played it plugged in. I always played it like plugged in the nightstand, and I was like, well, this is my next 2 or 3 hours, just me and Dynamite Heady. All right.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, those are my first two. And then it was around the time here that basically we learned how to import games and game systems because like Play Asia and I believe it was like Yes Asia, um, the import game sites came into
Also now into
popularity.
VTubers.
No, I had no idea. I had
Oh,
no idea.
Play Asia has an official VTuber. Their whole
I
character
had no
concept is that
idea.
they're the CEO.
Oh my god, I had no clue.
I will send you her
Wow.
link.
Wow.
Their name is Obake Pam.
Oh. Oh my god, I used that site when I was like in middle school to get games. And now they have a VTuber. Oh my god.
They
The
have two
times are
actually.
changing. Two?
Yep. That the other is Akamana.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
definitely
god. Oh, they're
definitely check them out.
cute.
That they are delightful content creators in their own regard, and yeah, the whole motif that it's Play Asia, so
Wow. They were the ones that delivered me my anime games. Oh, that's great. But yeah, after those, I ended up importing a Game Boy Advance SP from PlayAsia. It was the Pearl Blue one, which they eventually released in the States, but it came out in Japan first, and I was like, it was such like a beautiful, like light aqua-ish blue that was slightly like desaturated. It was beautiful and gorgeous. And I was like, oh my god, I love it. I must have it. So that was the third one. And the rest of them were basically thrifted. Because at the
okay.
time, I don't know why, but you could go into like a Goodwill store and they would have like Game Boy Advances like in the case. Like in the case where they have like the more pricey items. Um for around like between like 20 and 30 bucks. Um and my parents who knew that I liked video games um sometimes would just bring some home. Not, they did not care that I already had several.
I'm trying to figure out. So, what's the logic here? Are they getting anything? Okay, we can resell it at a profit because, yeah,
No.
$20 back then for Game Boy Advance is still a fine price. But
Mhm.
just is the concept here? Is it were they thinking of reselling just didn't, or was it
I think if anything they were like maybe I'll have an interest in playing it. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, maybe I played video games once upon a time. Maybe I'll play this, but also, hey, if you want to play it, go ahead." Also like we are very much a household that was like we also had a whole bunch of computers. We had so many computers. Basically more computers than people in the house for different parts of the house. And so we were just like a family of just like, well, hey, like it's cheap and we could potentially use it. All right, pick it up. And it's just like, all right. It's like, hey, if one breaks, you have
yeah, you
how
have
much
your
is that? 7.
backups?
Yeah, you have so many backups. And I was just like, oh, yeah, hell yeah, okay. And yeah, like basically also since they were like I did get allowance from time to time, and since they're priced like allowance, it was just like, hey, let me pick this up. Hey, you want that? Get it. And I was just like, oh, okay. And that's how I ended up with like 8 Game Boy Advances, which I did. I did give some to friends. I remember when a friend lost their Game Boy Advance, I gave them one of mine.
Say, hey, no
Um,
worries, I got you.
yeah, it's like no, don't worry about it. Same with like iPods. Had a
How
couple of
many do you
iPods.
still have?
I wish
Even
I
if they're
still
not with
had.
you in Japan, like,
Oh, I wish. I wish I had a nano that I gave to someone else.
ooh,
Like
the
I gave my
short-lived
nano.
Nano.
Yeah, it was an orange nano. My friend lost her iPod. And I was like, "Hey, I got you. Take my nano. I have a Zune." So I gave her my nano. I actually I'm not sure what happened to like my remaining iPods because like I had an iPod Touch that was like an 8 gig that I had like DDR and like Katamari on, and eventually I do remember like upgrading eventually. Um, and like with Apple and how they aren't very resourceful or
No,
like
they are not.
helpful, which makes me so mad because it's just like these could be out there helping people. This technology is not old, but with the firmware that you're put like being like, okay, well this is out of date now. We're gonna stop updating this or stop like tending to the battery on this, rendering them useless and waste. It's like these could be helping like kids somewhere. Like these could be helping people, and yet, um, basically it's just like I didn't really keep them around. I might have traded them in as I went up the iPhone ladder. I do miss my Zune though, and I don't know what happened to it. I miss my Zune. It was the fat Zune. I miss
Oh
my
gosh.
Zune. Give me my Zune back. Where is she?
And
Oh,
how
that
many
was
of
a
the Game Boy
pleasure.
Advances do you still have?
Oh my god, I don't know. I did move away for college, and so like any Game Boy Advances that were left, I think over the years either went to GameStop, went to friends, or got thrown into like a bag somewhere that's now at my parents' house. Um, and you'd be surprised at what stuff is like left, what stuff they like still have. So I haven't seen any in years. I haven't seen any in years, but I imagine they're all scattered amongst the winds in various parts of the world. Oh, I hope they're happy. I hope those Game Boy Advances are happy. I had a great
Hopefully.
time with them.
Winding back to Capcom for a second, you mentioned to me when
Mhm.
we spoke earlier that you had some sort of Capcom story, and I told you to
Mm,
wait.
mhm.
Have we gotten to the story already without me knowing it,
Oh,
or what is this
that's a good
story?
that's a good question. Was it about Mega Man Legends? It might have been about
I'm
Mega Man Legends.
checking my notes, or it might have actually been related to Yakuza. Uh, Let me double
Oh.
check.
Oh. There's a lot of stories in my brain.
There are a lot.
I've been places. I've been places and done things. Also, my brain is like a sieve.
No, I have it sort of at the top of a section.
Ooh, okay. It
So
might be, yeah. It might be about basically for like Capcom. One of my biggest influences growing up and kind of like what informed my 2D VTuber persona, like regular Space Onsta, with the goggles and everything, is Mega Man Legends, which is a Capcom game that's super duper stylish, amazing, so good. Was really ahead of its time to the point where if you play it now, it holds up so much. It literally the art direction and like how it looks, and the gameplay's like a little tanky, but it's fine. But it holds up so much and it's so charming. And it is so to the point that like when I was designing like my 2.0, which is like Space Once with the Jack and the goggles and everything, it was largely like inspired by two big sources. One of them being Sonic in terms of like character design and kind of like proportion and kind of like sort of charisma and charm. And the other was Mega Man Legends for like the art direction and how like measured out like the sort of like character designs and accessories are. And that general, I say general, but it's actually kind of specific. That kind of art style that was around for anime in like the late 90s slash early 2000s, which is when I was on the internet.
mm-mm.
Um, and I find it so charming. And it kind of like it came back a little bit. If you look at like the Pokemon Sword and Shield art style, you can definitely see
Oh,
like a lot of like through lines of just like here's how they're doing the eyes, here's how they're doing like some of the character designs. That's like very reminiscent of that time, which I think is why part of why I love Sword and Shield and their designs and their characters so much. But I was like, I want to shove this into my new design. Let's go. Let's
yeah.
go. It stuck with me for too long.
And
Hmm.
that's one thing that I just completely glossed over amidst the broader art journey that you designed
Mm.
your own models. That
Yeah.
and that is one
Yeah.
of the things that one of the things I get to do for the show. Just I hop around
Mhm.
streams and look for folks who I think might be fun to have a conversation with, and
Oh, thank you.
naturally, one of the things that sticks out first is just, what's the model? As I'm scrolling through
Mhm.
just the VTuber tag on Twitch and being a little bit miffed whenever I see folks that are clearly not VTubers, but that's a separate conversation.
Oh god. Oh, what are people doing? What are
But
people doing?
there's a lot of people who are just playing the metrics game and applying the VTuber tag so that
Oh.
they appear in the search because they know it is a highly searched tag right now,
Oh, that's
despite
annoying.
not being VTubers at all.
Y'all stop it.
Anywho,
Just be yourselves. Stop.
but that your model stylistically, while it still has those very clear anime influences, it's just the way that you have the lines done. And I'm speaking to this as someone who,
Mhm.
like I said, is woefully unknowledgeable about art.
Mhm. No, you're
that
good. You're
that
good.
that your style stuck out, and that when I tuned in, it was very clear. It was like, okay, she's one of the things I always look for is just, can the streamer have a good conversation with their chat? Because if they can have a good conversation with their chat, they'll probably have a good conversation with another person. And that you were
Mhm.
very on top of that. So sort of, got added to the big list I have.
Oh, thank
But
you.
that part of it was getting me in the door of just the eye-catching design.
Oh, thank you. So, this model in particular, this was meant to be a time skip model. This was meant to be a time skip model of Space Onsta. And I collaborated on this model with Outlaw Eric. So I did the design and Eric modeled it out. And I very specifically went to Eric because aside from his amazing 3D modeling skills, also I'll just hold on. Let me throw Eric's name into the chat. He's
Yeah, and
incredible.
I'll
He's
get a shout
absolutely
out done.
incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's go, Eric. Let's go. Aside from his like amazing jack
Oh
of all
no, I
trades.
think it squashed the link.
Ah, son of a gun.
Yeah, sorry,
Son
that's
of,
the auto mod right there. Just send the name,
yeah.
and then I'll get
Yeah.
the shout out.
Yeah, there we go. I'll send it along with this art I'll send over as well. So, basically, Eric is a jack of all trades and also he makes amazing 3D work. Um, and he had done some 3D art before with like really thick lines. And I love that style very particularly because some of my favorite games utilize that style. Like for example, my favorite rhythm game, I don't know if you remember it, is Elite Beat Agents. Like Oendan, Elite
Ooh.
Beat Agents. Really loved it. I also really love Beautiful Joe. And of course Sonic also utilizes thick lines in like the 2D art and whatnot. Um and I went to Eric like, hey, Eric, your art rules. And also, I think, like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but do you think, what can you do with this design? And there's a more updated version of this design that I'll send over to you on Discord as well. Um, and it was of time skip on stuff, which is basically, just basically what I wore in 2019 when I was teaching in Japan. This is literally me right here. This is just what I was wearing.
So this actually gives me a good opportunity to shift us over
Mhm.
to one of the other scenes where I have a bunch of your art, but I've
Oh,
actually
yay!
gone ahead and set up the one that you sent me of the Dusk Gym Leader Onsta. Of
Yeah!
the file name
Yeah!
was literally Gym Leader Sona.
Yeah! So this is the very, very first sort of art that I made, more or less, of time skip on stuff. Which was again, I was just drawing myself and what I wore from like day to day teaching in Japan, which was basically just like a Hawaiian shirt, a blazer that was often just hanging on my shoulders, and like wide-legged pants, which was I found out was just in fashion at in the stores that I went to, and I was just like, wow, these are just Hakama pants. These are in fashion. They were in fashion, um, and I really liked like the character design of that, and so like I thought it would be like especially fun and fitting to kind of like it ended up being like 3 years later, return to this design and touch it up
Actual
since
time skip.
yeah, actual time skip. And like it fits like surprisingly into like the Yakuza game universe as well. And so I was like, that'll be a fun way to like, you know, upgrade Onsta a bit because, like, Space Onsta looks like a Sega character, like in the other direction, and this is more like a Sega character in the Yakuza direction. Um, and
Yeah,
this
and
is
here we
like
have that art. I got that one loaded in 5 years later. Is this civilian
yeah,
enough for you?
yeah. There she is, and she's meant to be. She was originally meant to be a bit snarkier and maybe a bit like, kind of like a Giga Chad in the way of just aura. Not in terms of like doing what Giga Chads do, but just in terms of aura. But I was like, well, no, now she's a goober. Now she's just me. Now she's just a goober. But yeah, this is the design I passed over to Eric's. Like, hey, what do you think that you can do with this? And Eric sure did do. Eric sure did do. Because here I am. Did an amazing job, and like I'm really happy with how it turned out. Um, and there's been different like designs since then. Um, some of them I can pull out. Like for my subathon that I had in December, I got some friends to because I realized like all of my friends have such amazing like art and design sense. And I was like, please let me give you money to like design me an outfit if you are down and have free time. And so that's what I did. And quite a few friends were on board. And so I have outfits like this, which are like, this one was designed by friend of the show, Saren Fahrenheit. And it's a really good outfit. It's really cool. It's really nice and really cool. Really spacey, techy.
Got
Really
the half
neat.
cape.
Yeah, I got the half cape, got like a super cool like legging situation, got really cool shoes. It's really cool and like really good. And then you have other ones, like this is designed by my friend Steph, who is the person that I like tabled with
Oh
for so
yeah, it all
long.
comes back together.
Yeah, this is the Steph
Oh.
outfit.
Oh.
Mafia boss. Oni Mafia boss. And it's so good. Like Steph specializes in like really beautiful and elegant works, and like we both bonded over like Fatal Frame and like other like Japanese horror and other stuff. Um and so like I let everyone have free reign on what they like to design as an outfit. I was like, just be self-indulgent and have fun. I'll love anything that you make. Um and here was where like we landed. And there's several more outfits that are like lined up and in the mix that I'm really excited about. But it was just like a whole lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun to like plan and do.
That's awesome, and just the Hawaiian design is so iconic for you. I feel because it's not something that you
Aw.
see in a lot of designs at all, and
Yeah.
that it just pops, and especially against the black cape and the dark purple
Mhm.
hair, that just having those different splashes of color is very eye catching. I think it really brings everything together.
I'm so glad. I've always had a weakness for like a floral print, and also just kind of like I know like in the VTuber space, a lot of people sure do love Booba. Which is Booba's great. Booba's great. And Booba ain't going nowhere. But also like I feel like with like my design, I like to be like I can only describe it as scrungly. Like I like to be like scrungly. I like to like have the energy and like sort of aura that like I'm gonna scamp. And I think like especially since like I'm ace. I'm a pan ace, but I'm ace and I grew up like very ace. And so like when I'm in a space and when I interact with others, I don't tend to like to be kind of flirted with or just kind of viewed with in that lens. So I knew I wanted an outfit that was like that kind of reflected that and that people would rather focus on, hey, you're scrungling and scamping and you're funny and you sure do like Sonic a whole lot, versus like any, assets I might have out.
Functional design choices.
Yeah, function. I love function. But yeah, I that's the kind of vibe that I want to bring to the table and that the spaces I'm in. I'm like, hey, don't don't what's the word? Don't objectify me.
Yeah.
Just think of me as like a scamp that's like in your vents and like chewing your wires and might do like a spin kick or something.
Which you can do.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do those. I can do those. Oh, Kiryu, don't look. Kiryu, don't look. I'm spin kicking. Kiryu, I'm doing a Tatsumaki. Kiryu. Okay,
I
I've
remember
I've got to.
you had a video of that, which you posted on Twitter, and it was like, I know this isn't the reference, but I just think of Spinzaku. But then you knew Spinzaku, which made me happy because Code Geass is just my favorite anime of all time. So
Oh my god. I have news for you. I have such news for you that I didn't tell you when we talked about that. But Onsta is like a representation of like my Sona that I've had for a really long time. Like pretty much ever since I was like 11, maybe a little bit earlier. And that means she's gone through all the phases of anime that I loved and enjoyed throughout my life. One of those anime is Code Geass. And because I've just been the same predictable person my whole life, there is a bunch of like art and like fan art that I've received during that time of like Onsta and Lelouch.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, because it's just like I would make it, and then I'll have friends that were also in the Code Geass, and we do art trades. And there is like I would have to like dig for it, but there is art of me and Lelouch as cats, circa like
Oh
me
my.
being like 16 in high school, that a friend did with me as an art trade, and I don't know where it is off the top of my head. I would have to look for it, but it's out there.
If you ever stumble across it, let me know.
Yeah, I'll absolutely like, I'll look for it after this. I will just look for it and I will send it to you and be like, look who it is. I'm looking the exact same. There, here we are.
We also have here, I think you sent me 10 of your different pieces. I don't know if we'll have time to get
Oh
to all of
yeah,
them, but I
no
do want to start.
worries.
This is one of your recent one. Oops, that's not the right one. It's this one, which you
Mhm.
actually just announced this past week, I believe, that this was a cover that you
Yeah,
did for, it was with the Game Chops label, and I have it here. It
yeah,
is Rifty's lo-fi remix of God's Plan by Drake.
yeah, yeah. I got to do several album covers and art pieces for Game Chops recently. Um, for their set of Drake remixes that they're doing. We've worked together for like a long time. And in the past, I did Samus and Chill. I did The Legend of Synthwave, which were both different albums by them. I also did Mario and Chill. So we've worked together on a couple of different things, and they want to work with me again for God's Plan. And I was very honored, and I was like, I did not know that I could draw Drake and have it look like Drake, but now I learned that I can.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! It's Drake. And I'm really excited for the other two pieces of art to be released.
Yeah, because you also announced one just the other day. I don't have it here in
Mhm.
OBS, but
Mhm.
it was for Rhymester.
Yeah! Oh, that one was some fan art. That was some long-time fan art that I've been meaning to do. Um, because basically, Rhymester is this Japanese hip hop group that started in the 80s, 89, I believe. And their music's like really good. It's really punchy. They like draw a lot of inspiration from like 80s rap, and like basically they also experiment a lot, but they rap a lot about like human experiences and like, uplifting yourself and doing what you want to do in a society like that has like a very heavy work culture and kind of like wants you to conform rather than stand out. And their music's really inspiring, and but like literally the sound and beats and mixing and sampling is literally like on point. It's so good. And I wanted to draw something for them since like I've been a fan for like a couple of years now. And honestly, I found them through like another band I really like, Nona Reeves. Um, because they're actually friends and they collabed like I think in like
Ah,
2008.
nice.
Yeah, and like I listened to that song and I love that song, and I didn't realize, wait, this is Rhymester. Wait, Rhymester's on this track. Oh my god. And they released another track a few years ago. And they've been longtime friends. And yeah, basically I was just like, I listen to Rhymester every day. And I love him. I should really like at least make some art for him. And
Mhm.
there's a funny story with that. There's a really funny story with that. Um, I you know how listening to music on Twitch goes sometimes, where you're kind of worried about, oh, if I listen to this, am I gonna get bopped? Am I gonna get bodied? That sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically I mainly listen to Tatsuro, Yamashita, maybe some Tochigi Katamatsu, city pop artists who aren't really on streaming services. Because that's usually pretty
They are
safe, even though,
just far enough removed from the stuff that Twitch is going to be listening for to
Yeah.
not be part of, and also possibly because they are mostly based in the Japanese market, that they're not
Mhm.
going to be the licenses that Twitch is going to have as part of their auto scan system. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, thank God. And it's great because those are like two of my favorite artists. And so I usually listen to them, but one day I was like, you know what? You know what, chat? I'm feeling lively. I'm feeling good. Let me tell you about Rhymester, another musical interest of mine, because like I love talking about my music recs with chat. And I was like, all right, let me pull up some Rhymester for y'all. If we get muted or bopped, you know,
We're
we'll
taking
take it.
that
We'll
risk
take it.
today.
Yeah, we'll take it because I would listen to some Rhymester today. And so we listened to like a bunch of Rhymester songs, and I was like telling Chad about the different songs and like the message in each of them, and like, you know, just sharing Rhymester with them. Literally next day, I'm not kidding you, I'm linked an article by a friend. And that article, which came out that next day, not the previous day because it was released in Japan. So it literally was like, it was the same day as it was released, like this next day, was Utamaru from Rhymester is going to be in Yakuza 8.
What is it with you and just what we were saying earlier about manifesting things into the universe?
Yeah, it's like a weird sort of like either premonition or like manifesting, and I'm just like, how does this happen? How does this happen? It's been happening more often than like ever before.
Oh no, she's becoming too powerful.
I'm like, how is this happening? Can I control it in any way? Like, can it tell me something nice? Like, is there any way I can control this? This has happened too many times. Like, literally, the last 2 times I played Pokemon, or at least, like, the last couple of times I played Pokemon, like, for example, the last time, we were talking about Muzzy, and what Pokemon combination would make Muzzy. Do you know about Muzzy?
That's a throw, because I never had a Muzzy video product, but I remember seeing the ads that it was
Yeah.
a language language learning program for kids, and Muzzy was
Yeah.
basically someone in the big fuzzy mascot costume, and memory serves, it was like a dark green, I think.
Yeah, with a green face, like a big, like, sort of nose. Kind of looks like a swamp
Yeah,
thing.
it kind of, imagine if Grimace, the giant purple McDonald's blob, was fuzzy and dark green.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's such a specific deep cut that like no one's talking about Muzzy. We only
No.
talk about Muzzy because we like to reminisce.
I can say pretty definitively that in 106 episodes, I do not think that Muzzy has come up in any of my previous shows.
And now it's the first.
First time for
But
everything.
yeah. God, so like we were talking about ways to like make Muzzy in Pokemon Infinite Fusion, and people had some ideas. Like people had some ideas, and people had some like combinations that were pretty close, right? And I was like, okay, well we don't have this other Pokemon yet, so we can't make this, but I'll keep an eye out. And so we go to that town's gym, and we fight through the trainers, and everything's fine. And I have a clip of this, if you'd like me to go get the clip.
Did the gym leader have a Pokemon that was the closest thing you had seen to Muzzy?
Yes. And it was not any of the, like, it was part Electivire and part, like, Turtwig, but it literally looked like Muzzy.
Oh, I can see that, because you have the general body shape is provided by Electivire, and then Turtwig, the leaves become sort of the fur, and that gives it the dark, or at least the mid-green palette.
Yeah, and it's like he's all green, and if you would like to, I can go and grab the clip because I think it's one of my most viewed clips of the week. And that you can see me losing my mind because it's just like it's Muzzy. There's no reason why he should be here, why this trainer should have him, because everything is randomized, and it's a weird It's a very weird coincidence. It's so weird. And also here you go for you too, chat. But it
Oh
was
wait, no, the link's
so
gonna get
bizarre.
squashed. I'll get
Oh,
it in
it
there.
got squashed. Son of a gun. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
There
good.
we go. But it was so bizarre because like up to that point,
Oh
we're
my
just
gosh,
talking
it
about
is
what
Muzzy.
combination. Yeah, it's Muzzy. It's just Muzzy. And it's just like, why has he suddenly appeared? We made no action
You
to put
summoned
anything.
him. You spoke his name 3 times.
And he showed up in the mirror. There's no reason for him to show up. And everything is randomized to like the insane level. Like it's cranked up all the way up. There is no reason out of the over 20,000 combinations that should show up, especially in the same like half hour that we're talking about creating Muzzy. Why did that happen?
The game detected that you were trying to get to a certain solution and said, you're not quite there. Here's the solution.
Yeah, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. And in another stream that was like, I don't think it was the one that happened the day before this. I think it happened a week before this. We spent a good 15 to 30 minutes talking about, do you know about Boston Market?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about Boston Market and who eats at Boston Market because that chicken and turkey sure is dry. And also the ethics of Golden Corral. And we talked about that for a good 15 yeah, it was like rough. We talked about that for a good 15 20 minutes. And we're playing Pokemon and then like around like an hour or so later again, we fight a trainer. That trainer sends out a Pokemon that I believe is Moltres and another Pokemon fused together, but the custom sprite for it is a roast chicken on, like, I don't think it's on a plate, but it's like literally like a cartoon version of a roast chicken. Now, why did that happen?
Are we sure that there's not some, voice recognition program that's running in the background of Pokemon Infinite Fusion that is listening to what folks are saying and then seeding relevant Pokemon combinations to be found soon after?
I really wonder. I honestly really wonder. Because I'm just like, how does this happen? Like, with everything being as random as they are, like, there's no reason for this to happen. Because, like, the odds are literally in the tens of thousands. And it's not something that you can just orchestrate, especially if it's like trainers in the wild with Pokemon that are randomly generated.
Randomized.
And yet, we have the documentation of this happening. And I'm just like, what is happening? What's happening to me?
If I had a nickel for every time Onsta talked about a concept and then saw a randomized Pokemon about it in the same stream, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
It's weird that it happened twice within like a month. And it's just like, there's that, there's like the Rhymester thing. And it's just like, I guess like it could even extend to like, man, I sure wish I could work with Sega on something. And then Sega comes swinging in. I'm just like, is there someone pulling strings? Are there strings that people are pulling about my life? Positively?
Sega, we actually have this piece of art right here. I forget if this was actively part of that particular collaboration or not, but that this, from what I understand, that this is a particular archway in Shinjuku that Sega had basically, billboard branding rights for however long.
Yeah. It's basically so Yakuza-sen in Kamurocho, which is fictional Kabukicho. And you see this sign, this very specific sign, a lot because it's very famous, even outside of like the game. And for a few weeks, from like April 7th to like the 27th, it was blue. Specifically Sega blue for a music and film festival.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't actually Sega, but it looked like it.
It looked so much like it was literally the shade of Sega blue. And it was like, we all know why you did this. Sega, you had a hand in this somehow. Because it was very specifically Sega blue.
Did you sponsor the event?
Did you sponsor this? Did you give them money? And it was so amazing. Like, I was a little bit wary about going out to Kabukicho because I heard rumors because, like, it's Kabukicho. Even though it's like in the Yakuza games very prominently, I was like worried like it might be too sketch or like scary as like a femme presenting person to like go out and hang out at night. But this finally pushed me over the edge to do it because I'm just like, this is the first time that something like this has ever happened. and we don't know when it's gonna happen again. And it's Sega Blue. So I'm just like, this is destiny for me, I think, to go and do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I planned it out. I went on over there, and I stayed all day to take a whole bunch of like photos and everything. Not only of just like for reference photo for like future drawings, but just to like document this and also like draw me and Kiryu in. And it was a whole bunch of fun. And Sega actually like saw this and liked this, which was amazing.
Was that
And
before or after you had your first official collab with them?
It was after. Wildly enough, like after the official collab and whatnot, they shouted me out on Twitter with my Yakuza and Sonic art, along with some other really amazing artists. And they also shouted out a Sonic piece that I did for the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. That was like some fan art for fun because it was like super amazing. And like they shouted it out on their Sonic stream, and I nearly had a heart attack and died.
Oh, wait, during a stream. So not just on Twitter, but actually during a broadcast.
Yeah,
That's
it was like
so
the first
cool.
the first episode of like their Sonic. So they do like a Sonic stream of like talking about Sonic stuff and like, you know, celebrating what Sonic stuff is coming out and like fan works and stuff like that. And they put mine on there. And it was super amazing. And I was like, oh my God. Because like I stayed up late to finish it. Because I was just like, I've been slogging away at this piece for like a few days. I really wanted to get finished because like I want to draw more Sonic and make more Sega things. And I'm gonna push myself to do it. And I did, and it was super worth it. And yeah, it was super worth it. It was amazing. And this blue Kabukicho trip was the most recent thing that I've done and gone and went to, and that Sega very kindly liked. And I'm just like, thank you, Sega, for my life.
You mentioned photography, which I know in addition to all of the art that you create, that photography is also something you really enjoy.
Yeah, I love photography. I always have. And I'm really happy with the development of phones these days, that they can take such amazing photos without me having to lug around a huge digital camera. And I love photography, especially like living in Japan, where there's so many beautiful things to witness and see and take photos of, and just like honestly just like document. Because it's like sometimes I'll be walking around and I'll be like, I don't believe that this is real. I don't believe what I'm looking at is real, because the composition and the lighting and just kind of like the feeling and framing is so beautiful and good and incredible that I have to document it somehow. And so I'll do that. Also, like to set up composition for shots for like future illustrations and things like that, and like basically like carve and hack my own assets out of like real life reference. I'll just go and take shots. If I'm like, oh, if I get down at this angle, that'll make a really good like framing for an illustration. Whether I choose to just like slap it in or just like further like simple it down to simple colors and then like paint over it later. And so I'll just be like, all right, I need like a very specific dank alleyway for this. Time to go out and enjoy Tokyo, I guess. Time to take a whole bunch of pictures, or like, hey, I need some mountains. Guess I'm gonna get on a couple trains. All right.
Oh no, I have to go on a couple trains and see some scenic views.
Yeah, oh no, I might get some soba while I'm out there. Oh no, not me looking at this beautiful sunset with some mountains in it. Oh no.
Now, speaking of mountains, there are many beautiful things in Japan, but also you encountered something rather horrifying in Japan.
Oh boy.
You simply referred to it as Spider Mountain.
Oh, Spider Mountain, my beloved. Oh, God.
So is it actually called, like in Japanese, does that translate actually to Spider Mountain, or is this just what you refer to it as?
That's just my loving name for it. It's I used to live there in 2019 for like a year. And it's very funny because it was my first time coming to Japan. And I was just like, oh, I don't know what to expect. I'm really excited about it though. And then I arrive where I'm at, which is a lovely mountain that's filled with golden orb weaver spiders, which is great.
Now,
And if they
are
are,
these
yeah.
big and scary but harmless, or are they poisonous?
I think they have some kind of poison. Not enough to kill, but they're mostly harmless, I think. They're quite big, though. I have pretty big hands, but like their torso and thorax would be like the size of my thumb, and then you'd have like the legs.
Nope, nope,
Mm-hmm.
nope.
Yeah. And when I got to Spider Mountain, which, Spider Mountain did a lot for me. I love you, Spider Mountain. I'm never going back, but I love you. Um, like, they'd be up in the power lines. I'm not kidding. They would be up in the power lines, in between the power lines, making their webs. And so you'd look up and see these like black dots with like long tendrils, and you'd be like, "Hey, what's that?" And then you look closer and it'd be a spider or two or three. Um, and they'd be on the sides of apartments, and like on the little thing that connects the telephone pole to like the road.
Oh, how
And
lovely.
like, yeah, they were literally everywhere to the point where it was like all year round. Like they were super around in the summer, but even in the winter when I was like going to go teach at school, I would see them up in the power lines and be like, "You aren't supposed to be out right now. You aren't
Why
supposed to be
aren't
out
you
right now.
dead?
Why aren't you dead? It's like 35 degrees. Why are you still up here? This shouldn't be." And it was very, cause like I was like, oh, there'll at least be some like relief in like the colder months, cause I won't have to worry about walking into a spider. And that was not the case. Cause they were not only up there, but it was during this time that I was like walking along the sidewalk, like getting out of school, and one did lower itself in front of my face, and I did have to cross the street.
Yep, yep, yep.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just
Yeah.
got to do it.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta go. Sometimes you just gotta go. And like I was even like far from like a city, but it was like just like Inaka enough. And that it was just like, okay, you're getting all these spiders. You're getting all they never came in the house. But it's like you're getting all these spiders whenever you're gonna be outside. You better learn to dodge. You better learn to dodge. And I was just like, I can't believe Japan is like full of spiders. What's happened? Why is no one talking about this?
Yeah, note to self, not a place I care to visit. Nope. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
just
not
stay on
I'm not
the
proper
countryside.
arachnophobic.
Hmm.
I don't care for most insects, quite frankly.
Same.
It's not
Yeah.
a crippling fear, but I'll pass. Thank you very much. That they can do their own thing, and good for them, nature and all that. Great, great. And I will be over here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, same. Like I don't consider myself arachnophobic either. Or just like I'm I'm fine with most bugs. I don't want them in my house.
Oh yeah,
I'm fine with most bugs provided they aren't like on me or bumping into me.
yeah. If,
But
if I
I
see a bug
oh,
out and about walking down the street, as
mhm.
if I can just generally avoid it and not walk into it, sure, great, not gonna bother.
Yeah.
The minute those things invade the personal space of my apartment, you are invader at this point, and
Mhm.
I will not have mercy on the bugs then.
Yeah, it's like you are going down the toilet, sir. Good day.
Yep.
Good day. Um, but yeah, I sure did pick a place like to live, and by place I mean all of Japan. That sure has one, giant spiders, two, giant centipedes, and three, giant hornets that sound like helicopters.
Oh, they've just got the full trifecta.
Yeah, they sure do. They sure do. When I say like those hornets arriving, when they enter a building, they sound like a helicopter coming in for landing. I am not kidding. Those things are gigantic and they're loud.
Ugh.
I'm just like, what have I done? I'm like, what have I done?
Well, on
I'm, ugh.
on a nicer side of nature, one of the other pieces you have here, delightful
Mhm.
little Animal Crossing one.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
big Animal Crossing fan.
Ah, same.
Without derailing too much,
Mhm.
one of the main reasons that VTuber Talk came to be was because in the early months of the pandemic, I watched a talk show called Animal Talking, which was run by a guy named Gary Whitta, who is actually a Hollywood writer. And
Mhm.
when IRL talk shows were trying to move to remote, he literally put together a talk show set in the basement of his Animal Crossing house and had folks like Brie Larson, Phil Spencer, Josh Gad, Matt
Oh.
Mercer, and ran it for several months with some good success. And that became part of the inspiration for VTuber Talk, and like all the way down to some of the things and how I run the show.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's amazing. Oh, I love Animal Crossing. So I did this piece. It was in part of like how much I love Animal Crossing and how much I love Bob, who's
Yeah,
my
Bob the
favorite
cat.
villager. Yeah, Bob. Um, and it was also in part to how much I miss Japan. Because I did a series of like scenery pieces, where like, because I took a lot of photos while I was in Japan the first time, and I was at this point I was at home. Um, the pandemic had already started. It was not like a great time because of a lot of things going on, and I just needed like some headspace and like something to do to keep me both sane and grounded. So
Mm-hmm.
I grabbed like a handful of photos that I took from specifically when I went to go to Kishijoji and Inokashira Park, which is a very beautiful park. Uh, the Ghibli Museum is near there actually, and like it's such a lovely park and like amazing, cute little like city suburb city suburb. It's in Tokyo. That I was just like I gotta make something. I gotta paint something. And so like I would sit down and I would like grab my photos and I would like paint. I would just like paint and make stuff from those photos. And this was one of the photos that I made, of just like walking through the forest with Bob and my Animal
With
Crossing
the
like
royal
island drip.
crown.
Yeah, just like royalty. And it brought me so much joy and peace. And I would just like I would zone out for hours. I would paint backgrounds, zone out for hours, listen to podcasts, and just like create like a nice happy zone for myself in this tumultuous time. And it was like really nice. It was so nice.
Yeah, Animal Crossing certainly was there when the world needed it most. Just,
Mm-hmm.
thank goodness it got delayed from what was supposed to be an October 2019 release to March
Yeah.
2020 because it was there for a
Oh,
lot of folks during those early months. And
it sure was.
that for me, and by extension, Animal Talking also was sort of just, in that very stressful time, was something that I could go to and just have a clean headspace. And it was really, really nice.
Yeah, I really miss that. I really miss like being able to like dump my entire consciousness into Animal Crossing because it really was right exactly there, right exactly when we needed it.
Hmm.
And I remember like putting in like 12-hour days
Oh, yeah.
on Animal Crossing.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
That
oh,
was when I was just starting to work from home, and that, it's like, oh, I can work from home. And that means that I can, obviously still doing work, but part of my work can be a bit stop and go depending on certain things. And just,
hmm
all right, have a couple minutes that I pick up the controller and just, do a couple things around town. And okay, need to do work, put controller down, just do that. And then it's like, uh, it, it was something to keep me occupied. And,
hmm
it was very, very nice. Yeah.
yeah, it was just like, oh, thank God we have Animal Crossing right now. My God.
Now, you talked
Oh,
about doing several scenery pieces. I'm curious, was
hmm
this one of them? That this one was just marked as submerged, and that this
yeah.
has that nature look. When I saw this for the first time, I got the feeling that this was based on a photo.
Yeah, it's so I took a whole bunch of photos in Inokashira. And this one actually it's based off of a couple of photos. But I remember like looking across like there's a big pond in Inokashira. Um and it was in the summer and it looked I still don't know to this day how it was real, but everything was just the perfect shade of green. It was like the water was green, but not in like a murky way, but in like a I don't
Reflective
know
of
how to say this.
trees way almost,
Yeah, like a tasty way.
or like
Like,
a mossy way.
yeah, mossy is a good way to put it. Um, And like so like the water was green, the trees were green, everything surrounding like this area was just like green. And I was just like taken aback. Like
And
it
then
was
the
enough.
little white and red no crossing sign, or I can't quite tell what
Hmm.
it's saying you can't do, but you have this street sign here.
Yeah. And I thought that was also like a nice touch to bring in. But like it was like a combination of like that and like how like the sunshine and the sunlight reflected off of the water that like made me stop in time. And I was
Hmm.
just like, "Oh my god. This is the feeling of summer for me." This all of this right here is like this like the perfect encapsulation of the feeling of summer for me. And so I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these yet, but I have to take like a bunch of pictures. I have to take pictures of this and being here on this exact day and this exact moment because this is what this is the kind of thing I want to express in my work. And like that made me just proceed to take 8,000 pictures. And originally I was just like, it would be good to like document these and like maybe I'll just scribble a character over it for fun. I didn't expect to like I used like parts of these pieces to like make brushes or just like for like photo bashing or just plain like I'm gonna use these and like render and paint with them. Um, and make specific shapes for them. And like, God, it was so also like to learn about like composition and framing because like how the trees like frame like certain parts of like this pond and like sort of like implying like what else is like back there in the distance while focusing up tight on this like front area was like so I can't put words to it, but it like
There's
there's something about it that's like
like
beautiful.
to me as someone who, like I said, I do not have artistic ability. I have a
Hmm.
perhaps pinch of art analysis knowledge in like the most basic of ways that I understand the concepts of framing, but
Hmm.
like you're saying, there's a lot going on in this piece, and that at first glance, there isn't
Hmm.
much. That at first glance, it is you, the sign, and green. But
Hmm.
then as you look a bit more, that you can't actually see the sky in any of this. But then there's the
Yeah.
bottom half of the pond that's reflecting what is a sunny sky, that you see the
Yeah.
blue, that then going white of the clouds,
Hmm.
that you have these different types of trees, and one of them that the branches are hanging downward, which indicates, all right,
Hmm.
this is an area where the trees are so big that there are branches that have, tipped it over, and that you
Yeah.
have the mossy look of it all, and that
Hmm.
the more you look at it, there's all these different little elements, and that it's deceptively deep in that way.
Yeah. And it's just it's so like it took me back to being in Japan again, which I direly missed. And on an even deeper level than that, like it touched upon something in me that like I was chasing after when I was like a kid. And I'm talking about like maybe like I'd say like around like 10 or 11 when I got my first tablet. But I used to go on like these like forums for Open Canvas, which is like pretty much my first real art program. Um, and Open Canvas had a thing where like artists could post like the things that they made in Open Canvas and speed paints of like the art pieces that they made. And so you'd get all these beautiful pieces by like Japanese artists and like the time lapse basically, just like how Clip Studio Paint has that now of like how they made it. And I remember like looking at so many of these and being like, wow, I really wish I could make something like this. Um, and being able to now it just really reminded me of just like how long it's been and how much I've done since then to get here. And I actually even have, and I think I know where it is. My first attempt at a scene like this, back when I was, I'd say maybe like 13,
Oh, wow.
maybe. Yeah, and you can tell. I'll send it to you on Discord right now, but you can absolutely tell, and this was not intentional, that the vibe is the same.
Oh, it kind of is.
Yeah. Like you have the big tree, you have like what looks like is some kind of like like young girl, like looking in wonder. Like I don't know why there's a block blocking the path there, but I think I was like trying to go for some kind of deeper meaning. But there's like elements in this and this old piece that I did when I was like around like 13 that I was trying to like emulate these like bigger, better, amazing Japanese artists that I was inspired by. Like there's elements here that you can see that I'm trying to convey that I finally conveyed in this piece. In this piece over here. That like it really drove it home for me, I think. That like, oh my god, I have been the same person this whole time. And also that I've grown.
Yeah, that we actually have the piece right here, and that looking at it, it almost looks like something out of an N64 game. It almost looks like
Yeah.
Wispy Woods from Kirby.
Yeah. It's the Wispy Woods tree.
But
Without the
then you
face.
have here, a lot of that green, blue sky,
The
not quite
sun.
as much water, but you still have
Yeah.
the water there, and like you mentioned, that block.
Yeah, and like you can see like the poor attempt of like making a like a lens flare up in the corner that like I finally get right in submerged. And just like even like the pose, even though it's coming from a different perspective, is the same.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah. Like a girl looking in wonder at like a part of the environment.
And in a way, so here's me connecting some dots. The street sign is the rectangle that is the block.
Oh my god! Yeah! It is! I made it past the block! I made it past the block!
She made it past the block!
Yeah! Yeah, what?
And like, also just in a weird metaphorical way, that the fact that the sign is a, do not pass, enter sign, to the very physical block that is blocking the path here.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing how that worked out.
Yeah. That
Like,
perhaps
wow.
it was never truly a block, but just the sign that you thought was blocking you the whole time.
And it's just like I figured out how to move past it, and what lay beyond that metaphorical block, it was Japan. It was Japan. I finally made it to Japan. But yeah, like connecting the dots on these and like getting to like measure them side by side was really eye-opening for me, I think. And really just, especially since they're two like times in my life that have a very strong sort of like sense memory and experience memory. Actually 3 times if you count like the time I made this piece, the time I like took the photos for this piece, and the original drawing with the block that I did when I was like 13. They all have like very strong sense memories of like where I was in my life and what I was doing. And they all are connected in ways that like I didn't expect. And that just made it really moving for me.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. I was like, wow. Oh my God. How'd that happen?
Now, we're not going to have time for all the pieces you sent me, but one last one I want to talk about because it is so stylistically different. You are not normally a pixel artist, but you're quite good at pixel art, as it turns out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I like to crunch things up a little bit from time to time. I do like to like, so I used to do like more formal pixels. Nowadays, like if I want to like spice something up, I like building upon like crunching something down and rendering over it and then crunching it again. And so I did that with this piece, and it was a whole lot of fun. Like the aesthetic that this has is like playing like a Game Boy Color game.
This
And
feels
this
like
is like
the
a
congratulations you beat the game screen.
Yeah! It's like, congratulations, you made it to Kamurocho. And you beat up the thugs, and you did it. You made it. It was really fun.
Now, once again, we have Kiryu, which is certainly, there's other pictures that I haven't shown that you provided me with, but if you want to see more of Onsta's art, that it is all on her portfolio website. The link to that is down in the channel panels if you're watching live on Twitch. It'll be in the video description if you're watching the VOD on YouTube. And that you have on that site some like I didn't count all of them, but it was much more than the 10
Mhm.
pieces you sent me. Let's put it that way. My guess is there's
Yeah.
probably 30 to 50 pieces in there. It's a lot.
There's a lot, and I draw a lot of Kiryu. I really like that guy.
Yeah. You don't say.
Yeah, he's
Maybe just a
kinda
bit.
maybe just like a little bit. Maybe just like a little bit. I just think he's neat. Ah,
Are
but
there any
yeah.
pieces that you're working on right now that obviously, NDA professional things I expect you can't
Mhm.
talk about? Are there any pieces
Mm.
that you are able to talk about that you're really excited to continue working on?
Ooh, so non-NDA ones aside, I'd say there's one that I'm really excited for that I'm working on. That's a moving picture. It's a moving
Ooh.
picture. Um, and I've been working with some friends on it, in terms of like getting crit and getting like really working it into a really dope looking animation. And I just got some really amazing revisions back on it today. So I'm really excited to like get to work on that further. And once it's done, I mean it's definitely going to be on my Twitter, but it might also be a nice stinger that I'll incorporate into the stream.
Ooh,
So
okay.
I'm really excited about that cuz like I do love animating and I've been trying to like push myself to do it more. Um I just get real intimidated cuz I'm just like, "Oh, new thing, new big thing." But once I get past the first step and I'm actually like working on like keyframes and in-betweens, I'm like, "Oh, I do love doing this. That's right." And my brain finds like an inner peace with it. Um so I've been trying to like take the initiative of like, you know what? 2023, we're doing more animations. I did a few of them back in 2022, but we're doing more this year. We're doing
Hell yeah.
more. Yeah. I'm super excited.
Is Majima in that one?
Oh, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me.
I
Don't tempt
love
me. He
that. I
might
love
get
that
in there.
the obviously the implication there is no, he's not, but the further implication that
Mhm.
you in the back of your mind know that you could work him in if you wanted to.
Mhm. It's
And that
like
you
if
just go
I
in
want
instinctively that
to.
it wasn't even a no, it was
Mhm.
don't tempt me because I could.
Don't tempt me because I have no impulse control and I am very easily swayed. And I love Majima. Everything could use more Majima. Everything. I love that scrumpy guy.
I'm trying to think. So, uh, obviously, the most recent Yakuza game we had was 7. That one only came out 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
It's still
we
pretty
actually had a
new.
new one. We had a new one.
I'm like,
It was actually I think it was only a few months ago, but Ishin.
oh, that's
Uh,
right.
yeah, the game I got 10 times.
What?
Yeah.
We already had the 8 Game Boy Advances on stuff. How do we have a game 10 times?
I'll lay it out for you. So I live in Japan and I have a digital PS5. Um,
Oh,
Japan has some very
did they have different promos for different releases in like different stores where you buy them?
they sure do. They sure do. But that's not even the wildest part of it. But that's where we start our story. Because Ebten, which is an online retailer, had a really good digital. I keep saying digital every time I talk about it, but a really good deluxe package of Yakuza Ishin, where you get like a life-size Ryoma poster, well, wall scroll. It's taller than my walls. It's taller than my doors, and part of my walls. You get like a pillow, you get like a poster, you get stickers, you get all this stuff. So I was
At
like,
least
this is
they
amazing.
at least you get what you pay for when you're buying these multiple versions.
Hmm. That's true. It's like they were like, we're not skimping. You're gonna get the whole thing. Um, and so I was like, okay, this sounds amazing, and it's Japan only, more or less. I'm gonna get this. And then I was like, okay, I got this, but I have a digital PS5, so clearly I can't play this copy of the game. So I have to buy it digitally. So I buy it digitally. I don't buy the digital deluxe version, which gives you early access. I buy the regular version. I learned later that the digital deluxe version gives you early access, and I'm like,
I want
okay,
early
no, it's
access.
fine. Yeah, like a week early, or rather like 4 to 5 days early. And I was like, you know what? that's like a lot of money. That's fine. I'll just like commiserate with other friends on Twitter about it because like I knew other people in like the same boat that just bought the regular version. And I was like, I'm just gonna like commiserate with friends about it, and it'll be fine. Um, Also, like, thank you, thank you for the shout out. But I was like, I'm gonna do that, and then someone saw that, and they were like, hey, what if we enabled you a little bit, and we just give you the exact amount to buy the early access copy of the game, because we sure do know you love Kiryu and Ryoma so much, and I'm just like, uh, okay. And so I buy it at this point a third time, and I have it for early access, and we're just ready to go. Now after that was the time and occurrence that Sega reached out about the charity stream, and was like, we're gonna give you 3 copies of the game of Ishin to give away. And I'm like, that's so cool! Hell yeah, let's go! And we do that. And I was like, you know what? Since we're having like, because you can set your own goal for like how much you want to raise and how much you think you can raise. I was like, let's go for 1,000. Let's go for 1,000 because I want it to be a really nice, really fun, really long couple of days. And I was like, well, to properly pad this out to 1,000 and also, make sure that there's so much Ishin to go around, I'm going to buy 2 copies out of my own pocket to put with the 3 copies that were given to me. So now we're up to like, oh God, 8?
Yep.
Are we up to 8 copies?
Yep.
Oh God, yep, that's 8 copies. And the stream went great. It went amazing. Had an amazing time playing like 30 hours of Ishin.
30 hours well spent.
Yeah, well spent indeed. And then after that, it was my friend India's birthday. She's amazing. She's incredible. She's the best. And for her birthday, because she's never played a Yakuza game before, but she's very interested and passionate about it, I gifted her a copy of Ishin on Steam. And then after that, I got myself a copy of Ishin on Steam. Because the capabilities that the modding community have extended and are looking into are amazing. And I'm very excited for, future scamping to be done. And that marks the 10th copy of Ishin that I have.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better because at first I thought that there was like 10 different collector's variants and that, they had a different one for each store. And
yeah,
at the very least, 3 of these you didn't buy out of your own money, that you came into contact with these 3 copies. And that of all these other copies, only 3 of them were for yourself. That there was the normal one, the deluxe one. So, at least it's not, okay, I now have 10 copies of this game physically that I need to figure out what I'm going to do with, or just I somehow have it 10 times over in my Steam library, which I don't even know how it was going to work. But I was like, does she just have like 10 different Steam accounts? That way she was able to do all the purchases, or?
Oh, that would be insane. No, and like even like the physical copy that came with the wall scroll and everything, I ended up giving to a friend anyway, another friend. So I only own like 2 copies of Ishin.
Okay, that's still reasonable.
Yeah, but like every time I'd be like, okay, here's how many copies I have. Everyone was like, make sure you count the 3 that were in your hands because Sega gave them to you to give to other
you came in
people.
contact. They count.
They count. And I'm like, you sure? And they're like, yeah, include them. And I'm like, okay. So now we're at 10. And I don't regret a single moment of that because it was an amazing experience. I love this game and this franchise, and I'm eternally grateful for like Sega being like, hey, let's team up and do something. That'll be fun. I'm like, thank you, Sega.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I hope that you're able to have more of those collaborations with them in the future and, eventually get to that end goal, that dream goal of being able to actually work with them. So
thank you.
A tough question here. You were hired by Sega. You've made it. You got it. And they say, we're spinning up 2 projects right now. And, for staffing purposes, we know that we're going to need to hire more anyways. But since we're in the early phases of building the teams, you can choose
Mhm.
which project you're working on, and it's a new Sonic game or it's a new Yakuza game.
Oh,
Which
Sophie's
project do
choice.
you go to?
Oh no. Oh, that would be so hard. That really is hard. I think I would have to. Sonic and I are longtime best friends, and I know that we would catch up in the future. But my heart immediately says Yakuza. I would
Mm.
have to hop on the Yakuza. There's so much silliness and hijinks and like there's like especially like in 7, but like across all of them, some amazing hard-hitting, emotional, heartwarming character writing in there that like I think it'll be really fun to like take a part in, you know?
Mhm.
And like I just especially like in 7 and like all the interaction between the characters and what they're up to, what they're doing. Um it's really heartwarming and nice and fun and just really good. And I would like it's a dream, but I would love to be a part of that and like scamp around with Ichiban and Kiryu, make Kiryu's life hell, you know? And like even more than that, I think like have like a female character in the space, which 7 has like a lot of like several of these. But have a female character in the space that's like not necessarily like, hey, here's a female character that is girl. She is girl and like maybe she gets to do like girl things. Rather like here's a female character in the space that like has all the scamping capabilities and like humor and silliness as like her male counterparts, and she's just here to have a good time. Like she's not even like doing like anything particular like, you know, feminine or like sort of like love interesty. She's just here to like scamp and kick over trash cans and like bite people.
I'm imagining. Did you watch Jackie Chan Adventures back in the day?
Yes, I
I'm
loved it.
imagining Jade, but it's the
Yes.
younger niece of
Mhm.
Kiryu.
Yeah,
And
oh my god.
there you go.
That would be so fun. That would be so fun. Oh my god. I'd love to like Kiryu is like canonically he's not great with technology and he still types with like one finger at a time. I would love to like just like be help Kiryu learn how to use social media or just like here's how you send texts to you like your daughter Kiryu, here you go. And just have like the whole like straight man and like silly scampin' scrunglin' like sidekick going on between like me and Kiryu, where it's just like, oh, we're here to beat ass and also like be real funny, and there's like maybe there's a language barrier or just like a whole like weirdness
Like,
barrier
I'm
because I
already
am the way that I
thinking
am.
of how this plot line's going to go. I like the idea of the language barrier. The
Mhm,
reason that this all comes together is because
mhm,
long lost daughter or niece that he wasn't aware of, and sort of the found family,
mhm,
reunited family,
mhm.
uh, that sort of plot structure, and
Yeah.
the whole thing of all right. Here you did not expect to be a parental figure, a guardian, a mentor,
Mhm.
but he is here now, and gosh darn it, he's genuine. He's gonna do it, but at the same time, this girl's gonna teach him things too, and
Yeah.
that
You're
like
oh
I'm
my
I'm
god.
seeing this plot structure, and naturally, as things do in the Yakuza world, things are gonna go
Mhm,
sideways. That
mhm.
Kiryu's enemies are going to use this character to get to him, but then
Oh, I
the
have
character is going to be able to grow in her own regard and maybe even be able to beat up a few bad guys herself along the way with things that she learns from Kiryu.
you have no idea how accurate you are with how this has happened in Yakuza. This has happened in
Oh wait, has it
Yakuza.
already happened? Dang it, they
Yeah,
beat me
that's
to it.
Haruka.
Okay,
That's
okay.
Haruka.
To be fair, I was like, all right,
Yeah.
nothing I'm spinning up here is super original in terms of
No, it's
narrative
good.
structure, but I was just like, okay, based on the character concept alone of okay, how would the character function? So, all right, they've
Mhm.
already done that then.
Yeah. No, that's like Kiryu's relationship with Haruka, who is basically his former love interest's daughter. Um, and they become like a parental daughter unit after the events of Kiwami 1. And it's really sweet. It's really sweet. And
In
like
which game
she
is that
grows
I
up.
just sort of
Kiwami, Yakuza Kiwami.
Yakuza Kiwami?
Yeah, it's really good. But like, yeah. Also, listen. Sometimes I'll listen. Sometimes I'll want to like kiss Kiryu a little bit, but also he does have the right to put his hand on my face and say no. So it can be like it's gonna be like a little bit of a Sonic and Amy situation, like a little bit. But
Ah.
I'm just mainly there to like scamp and be feral and be like, hey, look, we're all being silly. We're all being silly here.
We didn't even talk about the concept of Amy in the next Sonic movie.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope
Gosh,
she's in
yeah.
there.
But I do know we're starting to run low on time, so I have just a couple last questions that I ask all my guests. We have the goal of, someday working for Sega. That aside, do you have any goals for the remainder of 2023 in particular that we're now,
Oh.
into May, not quite at the halfway point? So is there anything, whether it be, a particular project, a particular stream, professionally, or just in VTubing that you're hoping to accomplish before the end of the year?
Let's say on my end, I want to at least get to like JLPT level N3. Like I want to boost my Japanese. It's currently like around like an N4 level. But I'm intensifying my studying this year and getting very dedicated with it. And I wanna hit N3 this year. I also want to make more animations this year, and specifically more Sega related animations. I want to like have it click enough with my brain that I can like make fun shit posts and like even more like detailed, like exciting things with animation. And I hope that I can get to a point where it's like, because it's all about like doing it enough so that you get like relatively comfortable to be like, I have an idea, I'm gonna make this, and no matter how it turns out, you know how to like go from step A to step B to step C about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really want to do, because like I always have these like amazing little like daydreams and envisionments of just like cute, silly things going to like my favorite city pop songs, and it's always been like that for like as long as I can remember. And I'm like, I want to make that real. Now that I have the time to, I want to make that real. I want to make that an actual thing. So I definitely want to put more time into that as well. Um, on the VTubing front, I wonder. I I kind of like take VTubing just by like I go by the seat of my pants, and it's a lot of just like what can I do that's also like me just having fun and being silly, because I'm just like, well, this seems like a good idea, and then you know everyone sees what vile things I've presented. They're like, hey, this is great. It's like, hey, good idea. Oh, you got Kiryu in here, great. Um, but I think like there's some projects that I'm cooking on the stove for VTubing that if they come to fruition, I'll be very excited and pleased that they do. Um, Super excited and pleased. And
I'm
for the
definitely,
big dream, Mhm.
and yeah,
Oh,
and
go on, go on.
sorry.
No, you're good. Go on, go on.
Well, I was gonna say I'm looking forward to them because you have a lot that you've done already, and that you very much put yourself in a position for future success. So
Thank
these are not pipe
you.
dreams.
Yeah, it can be like surreal and a little bit like jolting to be like, oh my god, certain parts of this has already happened already. Oh my god, like there's steps forward that are happening. This
Mm,
is bananas. Um, and so I'm really grateful for those. I'm really grateful for those. And like, yeah, like the big dream for the future would I'd love to like be able to work with Sega more and maybe even appear in a Yakuza game somehow. That would be fun.
I mean,
That
they
would be
did a
great.
thing for some girls, and one of them that was selected was
Hmm.
Kason of Vishojo. So uh,
Oh yeah, the hostess thing.
yeah, yeah. So
I'd
they
make a
have
terrible
done those.
hostess.
Yeah. So maybe not the hostess, but
Yeah,
they've
but
they
that's
have set a
incredible. That's
precedent of
possible.
having outside folks come in as characters. So, you know,
Yeah,
my guess is that next time around, if they were to do that for another game, that it wouldn't be hostesses, that they would have a different approach. And,
yeah,
maybe the next category of characters would be a bit more fitted to your style.
yeah. Like maybe like if I just appeared in like a sub story, just as like a scrungly riffraff, that would be fun. Like I think I got a scrungly flavor. Like I
Yeah.
can't I can't be a hostess. I gotta I gotta throw down in there.
Mm. And then the
Uh,
last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not the
oh.
question of what does it mean to be a VTuber, but different
Mhm.
people get different things from VTubing. I've had folks say VTubing lets me get in touch with my inner child. It lets me be someone
Mhm.
who I can't be in real life. I've had others that
Mhm.
take a more clinical approach and say it's a mask that I wear. It is a tool in my tool belt as a content creator. And I don't necessarily have a super close attachment to my model, but I think that
Mm.
the things that I get to do with it are so much more fun and creative than I could do with face cam streaming. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those, in between and beyond are totally legitimate. So for you,
Mm.
Onsta, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
Oh man, I think being a VTuber and what it means to me, it means a lot since my VTuber and all of her iterations, because I have several forms. I have OG, I have Space Aunts, I have this form. Uh, she's always been an expression and extension of myself because she's literally just my Sona that I've had for God, over 20 years at this point. Literally over 20 years. And I have the old art to prove it, where she's more or less stayed more or less like the same. Like time skip is a relatively recent one since like 2019, but like if you look at old art, you can very much tell that it's her who is me. Um which is why like the way I go about things when VTubing is more honest and close to like who I am rather than kind of like put on like an act or just kind of like use it as a mask or like keep boundaries in line that don't align with my personal boundaries. And so like the stuff I make of her and the stuff I do like with her, I take very seriously and like keep very close to my heart since she's been we've been together forever. Like she's always gonna be here. So like the reason why I started VTubing in the first place is because like I thought it was amazing that like you can literally have characters that can move and talk and like where my mind went to literally first thought was like, wait, I can like animate my Sona because like that's something I've dreamed of ever since I was a kid. Because like obviously I love anime and games, but it's just like you don't really get to see a lot of like black people or brown people kind of like in a whole lot of roles. At least that's how it wasn't like, as a kid. It's like, oh yeah, you could see like Susie from Rugrats or like, something, but it's just like in cool lead roles or like in ways that like you can like personally relate to. Like it took a long time for even there to be more of that. And even now it's just like it feels amazing to like be who I feel that I am and what I want to see and what I want to be. And just this is literally just me. It's really like I'm always like so like tickled by like when people are like, so where'd your inspiration come from? Like where'd this character come from? And I'm just like, this is just how I dressed in 2019 and it just happened to fit with Yakuza. Like it's literally just been like this form is like just me like for each iteration. So like VTubing and like streaming and getting to talk with people and stuff like that is just like me having fun and doing things that like I would normally do, but I get to bring my Sona along for the ride here too. And get like some fun visual hijinks. Like I get to bring Kiryu here, or like, hey, we get to like, throw some other characters into space or like do a Tatsu. Um, and it genuinely feels really good. And like building and cultivating like a community that like gets the vibe and like gets the boundaries, and so like we're all on the same page and we can joke and laugh and like talk about Muzzy or like what happened to the McPizza and like play a silly game. Has
Now
grown
I'm
to be
thinking
something
about
that's really
McPizza.
fun. Yeah, I love McPizza. I miss the
Uh,
McPizza.
I know we could
uh
go on for several more hours if we had the time, but you're a very, very busy
mhm.
person. I don't want to keep
No
you
worries,
longer than I need to, but this has
no
been so much
worries.
fun, Ansa. And just, that
Yeah.
last answer, I always ask that question at the end because, well, I never know
Hmm.
exactly how someone will answer. The answers always make sense. And especially after a couple hours of
Mm.
talking with them, that there is that thread of consistency of that it
Mm.
is you and just your interest all the way down to just being able to find an expression for your art. Or like you said, that this is
Yeah.
a character concept that you have had for so long, that it for
Hmm.
you VTubing is not only just being able to be yourself and enjoy the games and art that you enjoy in new
Hmm.
ways with your community, but that it also lets you sort of actualize
Mm.
the the Sona that you've had, and that for a lot of kids growing up, that I had never
Yeah.
actually thought of it in those exact words of being able to
Hmm.
just really bring to life that character that you've made growing up. So
Yeah.
it's really cool where you are. The fact that we've had these very similar, but also vastly different experiences. And
Yeah.
like, I know that your story is still very much in progress, and I can't wait to see where you go from here.
You are too kind. Thank you so much.
So I do actually have one more question. And that's who would you like us to
Yeah.
raid?
Oh my goodness.
I'll let you
Oh,
take a
that's
minute
a
to look, and I'll do a last bit of housekeeping. So, for any folks in
mhm.
chat, thank you so much for tuning in. If for some absurd reason you aren't already following Onsta, do be sure to do so. If you're interested in more shows like these, I have these shows about once a week. I actually have a bit more than 1 week for the next couple weeks. I can't promise any regularity. I do try to schedule around my guests, so just follow me here on Twitch or on Twitter. It's just Vtuber Talk, both places. And this is episode 106 and many, many more to come.
Yeah.
So hopefully you all had a good time. I saw a couple of folks subscribe to my YouTube channel during the show,
Yay.
but that didn't get caught by the activity feed. So if you did follow, oh, and I do see Real Sugar Joe and Vixtajun. I totally missed those
Yeah.
earlier. Just totally engrossed in the conversation. But if you're still around, thank you so much for the follows.
Yay. You do amazing work, and I'm really honored to be here.
Oh,
Also, hi
thank you.
Vix.
And I see you've picked a raid target, Zetalis?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is my friend Steph, my longtime friend
Oh,
Steph, the
oh, this is
one
them.
that
This is Steph.
Yeah! Yeah, and we literally she made this very good Oni outfit for me.
Yeah, one of the pieces I didn't get to is that you have a fantastic piece of art with this
Yeah.
outfit, and that when you sent me, I was like, oh, I don't know what this is because on this particular piece, it's a full mask, so I couldn't see your face. But as soon
Yeah.
as you put on that outfit, it was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. So like I won't go too into it, but basically, one of my personas that I'll bring back every Halloween is Oni Onsta because of the pun. And eventually when I made Space Onsta and everything, I kind of moved away from that a bit, but I still kind of like missed Oni Onsta and I couldn't figure out how to like work her back in because like Oni are super dope and they're super cool and I missed her. Steph somehow picked up on this somehow. And for her lookbook piece, like character design for me, she reincorporated the Oni back into my design,
Oh,
and it's so good.
I'm realizing also that the edges of the horns are getting clipped by the
Oh
color
yeah,
filter here, huh?
oh yeah, I guess so, huh?
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I've never. Wow.
We've had some quirky stuff with filters tonight. Mentioned
Yeah.
it in passing earlier, but yeah, we'll figure it out. But
Thank you
hey,
so much.
so this has been so much
Mhm.
fun, Onsta. So again,
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking time out of your really, really busy schedule to be here. And I definitely hope to see you around. That I do actually run my own charity marathon in January, and
Oh.
that's when I invite all my prior guests back. So all the things we didn't
Mhm.
get to talk about tonight, or in the morning for you, that hopefully we'll be able to
Mhm.
talk again in the future.
Oh, I would love to. I had an amazing time, and I would absolutely like love to do this again in any sort of capacity. This is great.
I'm glad you had a good time. So, folks,
Yeah.
we're going to call here. We're going to send you on over to Steph. Do let them know that Onsta sent you.
Yeah.
Again, this is VTuber Talk. I'm Jay. Onsta, thank you so, so much
Mhm.
once again. Thank you to everybody in chat, everyone watching the VOD on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. And you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next
Yeah.
time.
Bye, y'all.